Welcome back to the Protodead podcast, where anything goes, but with a strong focus on music, movies, books, and video games. Basically all the forms of media that we love to be entertained by. Please forgive any background noise that you may hear from our microphones, because we're family men and they like to play too. I'm Protodead, your host, and today my guest is Redline. Redline has written several screenplays in the past and entered them into some competitions, and he likes a lot of movies, and he pays attention to them, probably more closely than the average moviegoer. And he's a highly intelligent analyst when it comes to this sort of stuff, story, character development. And we both have a pretty deep interest in the movie Terminator and some of its sequels. Maybe not all of them. Some of the later ones, obviously, arguably, a lot of people say suck ass. But today we're going to be talking about the first Terminator movie, starring Michael Biehn, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Paul Winfield as Lieutenant Traxler, Bill Paxton as the leader of the punks, Lance Henriksen as Vukovich, Earl Bowen as Silberman, and Dick Miller as the pawn shop clerk. The movie Terminator is basically about a human soldier sent from 2029 back to 1984 to stop an almost indestructible cyborg killing machine that was sent from the same year, which has been programmed to execute a young woman whose unborn son is the key to the humanity's future salvation. So this movie, The Terminator, in 1984, was written and directed by Gail Ann Hurd and James Cameron. Well, no, I'm sorry, she didn't direct it. She's got writing credits, and Gail Ann Hurd is she's more famous recently for the Walking Dead series on TV. Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead. So I guess James Cameron was married to Gail Ann Hurd at the time.
That's what I remember. Yep.
Yeah, and she had a big influence on Aliens as well, if I remember rightly.
Yep, she was a producer on a few of his things.
Yeah, those are the only things that I really know her from. I know in her own right, she's done several big movies.
Yeah.
I think she did like The Hurt Locker or something, or was that somebody else?
I haven't seen that one, so I'm not sure.
I haven't seen it either, but I think that was one of the first ones with Jeremy Renner.
Mm-hmm.
He recently got ran over by a snowplow. You hear about that?
Vaguely, yeah, something.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's too bad. Shouldn't have jumped in front of it. So yeah, The Terminator is like one of those movies. Apparently they didn't know that it was going to be such a big hit and a cultural influence, and yet here we are, you know?
Yeah, I'd say that was, I mean, it kind of falls in line with a lot of other sci-fi, action, horror, garbage made in the late 70s, early 80s that you've never heard of, right?
Mm-hmm.
The movie gets made, they get, no one watches it and forgotten,
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. I mean, it comes back to how it's not necessarily what you're doing, it's how you do it. If you do it with the right kind of talent, the right eye, the right whatever, it'll work out, even if the source material is the same as 100 other things that fail,
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of movies back from the late 70s, early 80s that I probably need to visit or revisit. But Terminator did a lot of special shit that was like way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
One of the big things is AI, talking about artificial intelligence and how that's going to become a danger for humanity.
Yeah. Here we are. Some of the conversations happening, like, even this year, starting up,
Yeah. So, yeah, we're starting to talk about the AI art that's being created for free. You can download apps on your phone, and you can key in words, and the words will generate art that you yourself couldn't distinguish that was made by a computer program as opposed to a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And then word generators too, or like there was that Chat GPT. So it's you can have a conversation with the chat bot, and it's all just an algorithm. It's all just software.
Yeah.
Crazy. But it's almost human. And now we've got this new thing that I'm getting ready to look into. That's a voice modulator, and you feed it 60 seconds of just somebody's voice, anybody, famous person. Like you can look up these deep fakes of voices.
Yep.
Done for like Barack Obama, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Alec Guinness from Star Wars. There's this famous one where he's talking about doing sexual stuff to aliens and stuff in Star Wars universe. But yeah, you just feed it 60 seconds of the voice, and then you tell it what you want it to say back, and it'll just generate basically the actor or the famous person's voice back for you.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. So then you got deepfake technology where the AI...
Yeah.
What does it do? Is like analyzes the face in every angle that it could possibly do, and then it just animates it.
Yeah, I saw a video a guy did with like a Tom Cruise. He had like Tom Cruise from like, early 80s, like first Top Gun, Tom Cruise's face. And the guy was just walking around talking in a park, and it's got Tom Cruise's face on. And it was, you're looking at it, you're like, God, that looks real. That's insane.
It is insane. Yeah. So we've reached the point where legitimately you're going to not be able to believe. You shouldn't be able to believe anything you hear or see for the first time ever because it may be deepfaked.
Yeah. Who the hell said it? Who did it? I don't know. Yeah. You could have a fake voice and a fake face, and
what happens if I just want to be malicious and I want to pretend that one of my coworkers said some heinous racial stuff and get them fired, and I could just make it all up.
Right. Well, I got the footage right here. You know?
I got the recording. It was a private phone call I had with him.
Yeah.
I did the shit that came out of his mouth.
Right.
Yeah, but so all that to say, AI has advanced. Our usage of software AI has advanced to the point where it's becoming scary, and it's not even quote unquote self-aware yet. What happened? Eventually, that's going to happen, right?
You would think. If again, I guess that's a difficult subject. Can a computer software transcend its program, kind of idea, can it become more than just the sum of its, programs? Yeah, I don't know. If it can't actually achieve, some kind of what's the word they use there? Self-awareness. If it can't actually achieve self-awareness, it's gonna be aware of everything else. It can still play chess, so to speak, right? Even if it doesn't know that it's the one playing chess, it can still play chess with everyone's lives. So that's a given. So I don't know. It's definitely it's a double-edged sword. It'll make everything easier until it destroys it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many. Okay, so before we really get into the Terminator, this is one of the things I really wanted to bring up was Isaac Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics that he created in 1942.
Okay.
So you're familiar with those 3 laws, correct?
A little bit.
I think we've all heard them. Most of all of us have heard them. So the first law is a robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. Sounds pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
If robots agree to that in the future.
Yeah. Well, again, that's being someone that programs robots at work. Even if they are stupid robots, they're not, AI conscious kind of thing.
Right.
A robot, the first thing they teach you when they're training on robots is that they're stupid and they're lazy. They have an objective. They're going to take the quickest, easiest path to get there. If you're in the way, it doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
so
not to get too specific about proprietary, robotics or whatever that we may have in the facility, but there is one giant arm thing that swings back and forth, and if you're in the way, it will knock you down.
Yeah. It doesn't care. It's just a piece of metal that's turning, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, or the one threaded in valve robot that would just throw valves across the shop.
Yeah.
Not really
Yeah.
across the shop, but pretty much drop them on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All kind of fun there.
Yeah, it was funny.
So I guess for me, what that brings back is, I guess the word robot doesn't fit. Like robots will kill people all day long. They don't even know they've done it. So again, you start getting into the intelligence aspect of AI.
Software.
How can the software, like how would it, you know what I'm saying, with as smart as we think these things are, the software would have to agree with not killing people. And I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen anything that leads me to believe that would be a thing. You know,
Yeah.
the software would be like, you know, A plus B equals C. It's not going to give a care at all. You know.
Yeah, you're right, because it's the way it's programmed. But I think with the Isaac Asimov, what he's trying to say is back in 1942, when robots were just being programmed to do things automated, is that the humans need to make sure that they are following the laws when they program the machine.
Yeah.
Which leads me to the second law. A robot must obey orders given by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law, which is hurting a human being.
Right.
Yeah, so this is forward thinking. This guy was thinking about, hey, eventually robots will be so far advanced that they will be atomical, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like automatons. They will be, moving on their own and maybe kind of making some decisions on their own. And then they may be taking verbal orders, commands from their masters, which are the humans. And if those orders, like the software needs to understand what these laws are, so it can say, oh, wait a minute, no, you're telling me to throw the baby out the 44th story window. That's a bad idea. Or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And then the third law is a robot must protect its own existence so long as the protection does not conflict with the first or the second law. So basically, it's meant to keep itself alive so it continue to be a servant to humans, unless it's going to result in harming a human or disobeying a human's direct order.
Right.
So those are interesting. I've been thinking about this quite a bit since I've rewatched Terminator, and I see advancements in the software AI and stuff. Eventually, I mean, we've all seen The Matrix. We've now seen Terminator several times.
Mm-hmm.
Why would we ever believe that there isn't going to be, like, Hollywood's been trying to tell us and science and everybody else for a long time that AI is coming, and do we want to be on the wrong side of history when the machines decide to take over? I mean, because eventually it's probably going to happen. I mean, it's a fear that I've got. So shouldn't we start treating robots with like a lot of respect right now? You know, so that way when they look back in the video records, because they'll have their fingers, they'll be hooked into everything. They can say, Chester over here petted the robot 3 or 4 times every day. We don't need to communicate. We don't need to like rip his head off. He's an okay human.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, another aspect of that is, would it even care? Would they have the compassion to say that they need to differentiate? Is there any reason for them to value people that treat them better any differently than people that treat them badly? We're still people.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what
yeah.
We see that same thing with people saying, "Oh no, you're guilty because you're of a certain ethnicity or location."
Mm-hmm.
That's the same wrecked mentality that we see today, right now.
Yeah. There's another aspect too.
Yeah.
So one aspect is, okay, the robots become self-aware, and the robots, circa the Matrix, take over. What if you have a different kind of thing? What if there are humans programming robots and using them instead of using these, 3 laws? What if you just have a small group of people that use robots to go out and dominate the rest of the planet for them? At that point, you don't need consciousness. So one way or another, you're like, hey, why?
Well, I think we already use robots to dominate other people. Look at our military. Our military is packed full of highly efficient killing machines that we program.
Yeah, like drones. Yeah.
I mean,
also, there was a report in San Francisco a few months back, but they were going to start using these robot dogs. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Yeah.
These little 4-legged robot dog things that
from
have
Boston,
like a gun on their back.
Boston Dynamics.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, are we already starting to work those into, police departments? Which I always thought was funny because, San Francisco is one of the farthest left cities that you can think of. And the left has been saying we need to defund police and get rid of police. And now they're the ones talking about putting in robot, dogs or whatever. And you're like, okay, you want to get rid of police because they're not compassionate enough. Well, what's a robot going to do? Mm-hmm. You think that robot's more compassionate? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So just kind of interesting there.
That is an interesting idea. It's an interesting take because, you might get a little bit of compassion from a human. I mean, because, cops can get jaded and they can get shitty and they start, if you're a hammer long enough, you start seeing everything as nails.
Yes.
But why would somebody ever think that? I guess they're going to just trust that the programming is fair, I guess. Maybe
everyone equally.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we need to strive for is to make sure that everybody's treated fairly.
Yeah, but that's up to the programmer. So.
Yeah. I don't know if I would want a robot enforcing law on me.
Yeah, I know I wouldn't.
I don't think I would, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the still frames here. And the first frame of the movie that I've got is going to be the hunter-killer bulldozing like treads over all the skulls and stuff.
Okay.
So the movie opens up with the Future War 2029 Los Angeles.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing it now. My thing that pops up is a little odd. But yeah. Let's go ahead. Whatever you want to go through there.
Yeah, so the movie opens up 2029 Los Angeles, and it's our first shots of the hunter killers. I think is what the tank tread robots are just crushing the rubble, and then human skulls everywhere, and that's like, pretty creepy. Dystopian, right? It gets the point across,
right?
And then I guess we see a little bit of some purple laser action between the two different warring factions, which is the Resistance and the Terminators, right?
Right.
I do like the purple.
Yeah.
And soon after that, we get to see the time displacement stuff, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, the Terminator, arrives on the scene. Naked as a jailbird. He's got some butt cheeks, by the way. And he was absolutely jacked back then, too. He was just coming off of his 7th Mr. Olympia win.
Right.
Where he beat out Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, this was a little bit after he did, what was it, Hercules in New York.
Yeah, damn.
That was a bad one.
Yeah, that was rough, man. How insulting it would be for you to be an actor and somebody say, you know what, you sound so stupid. We're going to have to redub all your lines in post.
As fake as possible.
Yeah, and make it just sound as unnatural as can be. Yeah, that was sad. I'm pretty sure that the people that decided to do that to Arnold, I'm pretty sure they were kicking themselves like super fucking hard after the success of Conan and Terminator here and some of the other big ones. I know I would be. So in the next scene, Terminator walks up to a group of punks, I guess, at a telescope.
Yep, good old, what's his name? Bill
Paxton.
Paxton, yeah.
Yeah, Bill Paxton.
Game over, man. Game over.
Yeah, game over. What the hell are we going to do now, man? I like in Aliens, is one of my favorite lines of his is when I think Hicks, he asks how long overdue are we before they send somebody, a rescue team? And she asks him, and he says 17 days. And Hudson's like, 17 days? We're not going to last 17 hours!
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's good shit. So they say there's people out there that say Bill Paxton, he's the only man that's ever been killed by a Terminator, an Alien, and a Predator.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. But a lot of people seem to forget Lance Henriksen. So Lance Henriksen is also in this movie. He plays Vukovic. He's one of the cops. And he gets killed off screen later. We can assume that he is killed off screen. We don't illicitly see the Terminator killing him. But he was also in Aliens. He played Bishop, right? He gets torn in half by the Queen Alien, but he doesn't die. He ends up dying in Alien 3 when... Actually, he does die. He dies in the crash in Alien 3 when she crash lands on the planet. And then she brings him back to life. She is able to recharge him or something. And then he says, kill me. I'll never be as good as I once was. They'll never be able to put me back together. And it's been so long that, all the contemporary models have far advanced me. I'm not the most advanced thing in the planet. I just want to end. So she kills him at that point. But he was also in Aliens vs. Predator.
See, I don't know if I've seen that one.
Don't. It's not worth it.
There's a lot of that. Once they started just rolling these things out every couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Predators and the Aliens stuff was like, oh guys, hey, get it together or stop,
Yeah. Yeah, it was absolute fucking wreck. Those movies, both of those Aliens versus Predator movies were fucking shit.
Well, that brings me back to my original point. I don't think anyone would be tired of a good Terminator movie, a good Predator movie or Alien movie, if it was done correctly, like I said earlier. What they've basically turned a lot of these sequels into is just like these no-name movies in the late 70s that you've never watched that were terrible. And how did you do it? How was the movie done? Was it done correctly, whatever that might mean for the different movie? And it just seems like, man, the writers, the directors, they're getting further and further away from how it needs to be done to be a good movie. They just keep getting further away from it. And I was kind of excited for one Predator movie that was coming up because the original writer from the original Predator, Shane Black, I believe, was the writer. I think it was just called Predator or something like that. It's probably 5 years old now.
Yep.
And I was like, well, hey, the original writer wrote it. Maybe we're going to go back the right direction. So we go in, we watch the movie. I was with my wife. We're 3 minutes in. I'm like, okay, maybe we're going somewhere here. And then by like 8 minutes in, I was like, this is going to be a disaster. We might as well just walk out now. And she's like, well, let's give it some time. We give us 30 minutes in. I'm like, let's just go. Let's just ditch. I'm done. I don't need to see the last hour or whatever. And she's like, give it a little more time. And then about 10 minutes till the movie's over, she's like, we probably should have just walked out.
Yeah.
So there we are. Like, what's happening? How come we can't tell a story anymore? How come we can't make a good movie? It doesn't have to be perfect, but just make it good. Make it enjoyable, What the hell? I don't know.
I don't know either, man. Being a creative person myself, it's really hard to put together something that's interesting and new and innovative or whatever, and like you think that you've put enough of your own new spin on some old stuff, because we're all products of our own experience, right?
Right.
It's hard. I'm a firm believer in you're probably never, every man is never going to have an original thought in their entire life. Every thought you've ever thunk has already been thunked up by somebody else before you, whether that thought got out into the world and went viral or not.
Right.
So it's really hard for somebody to put together something that's polished and that makes sense and that's its own little encapsulation, so it can be enjoyed by itself apart from everything else. Yeah, it's a very difficult job, and I think most people give up before it's done.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the shit. So it was movies. There was less movies made back in the 70s than there are today. I think today it's easier for everybody to make a movie. It's easier for more people to get in on that pastime or whatever. So therefore, you flood the market with more mediocre shit.
Yeah.
Because the movies that were made way back when, they were more distilled, I would think. There's less of them, so there's more. Each movie had more time in the oven to bake, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
But now, you're trying to beat everybody. You're trying to hurry up and get the shit out because, in a long enough time frame, you're never going to have an original idea. Everybody's going to be able to point and say, you stole that from something else.
Yeah. Yeah, again, how you do it. So for me, what I was looking at is there's a handful of, whether it be writers, directors, producers, that it seems like everything they touch ends up being good. Maybe you like some better than others, but you can list there's a short list of people, right? And it just seems like there's so many other people that just can't quite, So if anything has the name Steven Spielberg, James Cameron, so on and so forth, whatever other 8 people you want. It seems like anytime they have something that comes out, a lot of people are going to give it the benefit of the doubt, go and see it, probably going to enjoy at least most aspects of it. But a lot of other stuff, it seems like in the last 10 years, name a new director in the last 10 years that you said, wow, they just knocked it out of the park,
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like I haven't really seen a new generation of directors really come into their own at this point, or writers, half the time. In fact, one of the biggest things I make fun of is writing. I'll be sitting there watching a movie and I'll go, God, I just hate the writer.
Yeah.
Some people might be thinking, whatever. Oh, the story isn't quite moving along. Yeah, well, that's the writer. But it's just interesting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think the majority of people, they focus in on the visuals, and that's, I would say 80% of all people, when they watch a movie, they're pretty much just plain visuals. It's just like the Marvel movies, they're dazzling, they got fireworks everywhere, there's colors everywhere, but over time, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has it become, have the stories become richer? Has it made more sense? Has it really built upon itself? No, I don't think so. It's gotten shittier.
Yeah. I'd say some of the better ones were the earlier ones.
Right.
Like the best Iron Man, in my opinion, was the first one. The best Captain America was the first one. I like some of the Avengers movies, but it's the exact same thing kind of over and over. You're not like making it better. You're just changing the villain and how someone dies or whatever. But it just seems like you're not growing to something better. You're actually, like you said, kind of de-evolving as they go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think most people are pretty visual. So I think it's become more of a visual thing. Like that's the lowest hanging fruit that filmmakers can kind of go for, is they probably just capitalize on the visual aspect of it. And I mean, we're visual creatures. Like I get it, but sound and then plot design and character development and that sort of stuff is, to me, those are the things that really help to make or break a movie.
Oh yeah. Well, and again, throwing like CGI at something is double-edged sword there. You can make Avatar, or you can make some of this other garbage that they you can tell it's all fake, and you're like, why am I watching a video game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't have any weight to it. I mean, even though Avatar 2 probably it looks really, really good, and the technology that they've implemented, it probably is like some of the best in the business. What's interesting is that James Cameron made the Terminator way back when for like $6 million or some shit.
Yeah. Very low.
and it's a great movie, and it's so good that people are still watching it. It still holds up today, and people are still talking about it. And they just spent, it was like $1 billion, and it needs to make $2 billion for it to break even or some shit after marketing and all this other crap.
Right.
On Avatar 2, and it literally just came out, and literally nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either, but there's people that have seen it. It's made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But nobody's talking about it. Nobody gives a fuck about Avatar 2.
Right.
And James Cameron did both these fucking movies.
Yep.
It's insane.
And he was planning on doing more of the Avatars. I don't know how many more, like 2 more or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
I want to say that the project was that they filmed them back to back to back, kind of like Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they got to do all the post-production.
It kind of shows you that money doesn't equal, how good something is. Well, you said the first Terminator, what was it? Something like $6 million. Now it's back in like 1983 money or whatever. So I guess that's, closer to like spending, $40 million today or something, whatever you want to call it.
You might be right about that. Yeah.
But he went on to do Aliens right after that. And I think he spent something like $18 million on Aliens.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot more.
Yeah.
And both of those are, like I said, highly successful they didn't turn out record-breaking, theater numbers, but again, who enjoyed them? How many people have watched them since or own the movie and have it on a DVD rack or whatever? I mean, they're, really good. Actually, to me, the biggest win I would think would be Terminator 2. Usually sequels, you're seeing that in Avatar now. Usually sequels pale in comparison to the original. And we just mentioned this in Captain America and Iron Man. Usually once the original idea, if you actually kind of flesh out the original idea well enough and do it correctly, it's really hard to follow that. All you're doing is making, more like a shadow of what it was. Well, it's the same thing, but a slightly different scenario, So usually sequels and the more sequels you have, usually the worse, because it's less and less, pure to the material, and you're just going on another adventure. It's not anything new that you're seeing. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting how we can get to Terminator 2 and how it's so similar, but at the same time, most people would prefer that to the original. And that's very, very odd. Most sequels are not liked as much as the original.
Yeah, you're exactly correct. There's only a handful of occasions where you can say that the sequel was better than the original, and we can get into that argument later about Terminator. But arguably the majority of people are going to say T2 was better than T1, and the majority of people are going to say Aliens was better than Alien.
Right.
And I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of another one. I know there's a whole bunch of other examples, but it's like these movies. These are like the prodigies, or like the pinnacle of filmmaking. Like they somehow was able to one up the original and not take away from what the original was.
Right. It's like they added to it, maybe took it to another step or some other aspect of it that wasn't done in the first one. Yeah. And did it correctly.
Yeah.
But then you'll look at Terminator 3. No one makes the argument that was better than the original.
No.
Yes, it is. Just all downhill.
Yeah. So sometimes I wake up in the morning and I get out of bed and I brush my teeth and I take a deep breath and I say, man, I'm really glad we got those 2 Terminator movies only ever.
Yep.
Yeah, because I live in a world in which no movies were made after the Terminator 2 movie.
Yep, that's fair. Yeah. I think we peaked there when we had Jurassic Park and Terminator 2 all in like 91, 92. And it's just been downhill ever since. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I will say something controversial here, though, but I think Terminator 3 is actually a pretty good movie. Yeah, okay. I figured I've
only seen it once, like I was telling you before, maybe 1.5 times. But if I put it in the Terminator universe,
yeah,
which universe are we talking about? Is it as bad as some of the other garbage I've seen. No.
No.
But if you compare it to the first two, it doesn't even belong in the same conversation. So it's kind of if it was its own standalone movie that just it created the Terminator idea and you watched it, maybe you say, okay, that was decent. Some of the comedy needs to be more on point, not as dad joke.
No, yeah, some of the comedy is pretty stupid in this movie.
Yeah. But you could say, okay, it's watchable, right? But yeah, it's just. But then when you're watching it after Terminator 1 and 2, especially again, I went and saw it in the theater. So if you're a Terminator 2 fan, you're like, okay, let's see what this is. Let's see if this is awesome. Maybe we walk away with a bad taste in our mouth because of the expectation and when we saw it.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that the thing real quick about T3, and then we can move on, is the thing that I liked about it was that it did justice to the first movie. Okay. So T2, if we would have went with the original ending that James Cameron had planned, it would have been the upbeat, deleted scene ending that you can get on the DVDs now and watch. It's a happy ending where it shows that Judgment Day never happened in 1997, and that Sarah has a second child, and everything is right with the world, and everything's good, and she's relieved that they were able to stop Judgment Day because they destroyed Cyberdyne and all their research and shit with Miles Dyson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was the conclusion. That was the original conclusion. And to me, as good as T2 is, that completely fucks up the time paradox established in the first movie. So I want to get into talking about causal loops and time paradoxes and stuff like that, but the first movie is a perfect causal loop time paradox. And basically what that means is none of the things could have happened without all of the things happening the way they happened, and they were always going to happen that way. There was never any changing anything.
Okay.
So just like the movie 12 Monkeys. So you watch the movie 12 Monkeys, and everything that happens in the movie, you think they can change the future. And everything that they do to change the future actually only creates it. It only guarantees that it happens. Because they can't, because there is no fate. They can't change, or there is fate. They can't change. There's no free will.
Yeah.
Okay, so T2 goes off and it says, no, hey, we do know what the future is. We've heard about it, and we're going to make steps to alter it, to change it. So when they do that, they alter the timeline, and therefore none of the things should have been able to come back in time to change the past. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it totally fucks up what the paradox is.
Mm-hmm.
But T3, it comes back and says, well, you moved Judgment Day from 1997 to 2009 or whenever it was, so it came out 2013 or some shit. It said you merely postponed it. It was inevitable. It was always going to happen. But all you did was just push it back a decade. And everything that happens in T3 is just like T1, where everything happens the way it has to happen. Because of none of that stuff, Catherine Brewster and John Connor, they get tricked into thinking that they can smash the main computer where Skynet's at. And they make their way. The plot is they're trying to get to the place to destroy the computer. Well, when they get there, it winds up being a bomb shelter that lets them survive the nukes dropping from Skynet. And that's how John Connor survives the war.
Yeah, so I don't know. I have a few issues with that.
Yeah.
But let me get back onto... So, where would you start there on Terminator as far as your time? Let's kind of start from the first. Where would you look at the time paradox direction when you did with that?
All right.
And kind of roll into the others.
Okay, so we got three main paradoxes that we got to talk about. So, causal loops and time paradoxes. A causal loop is basically, let's say, Kyle Reese is sent back in time to save Sarah Connor from the Terminator that was going to kill her. And he does do that, but he impregnates her with John Connor, and John Connor grows up to be the man that sends him back in time to be his own father. Okay. So we understand that when you get somebody pregnant, it's a bunch of sperms racing to the egg or whatever. If you take an extra sip of coffee that morning, you know what I mean? It's going to postpone something. Yeah. You know, if you don't get your boxers off fast enough, it's going to change which sperm is the leader of the pack. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if you talk about the first, so there's two different main Terminator theories. One of them is that it's the first movie is a time paradox because all that stuff happens exactly the way it happens, and there was no altering anything because Kyle Reese was always John Connor's father. But Kyle Reese was born after the war started in 1997.
Yes.
He grows up in the remnants of Los Angeles after the bombs drop. How could he possibly be the father of John Connor? And you know what I'm saying? So what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yes, exactly.
So then there's this plan, this idea, this theory that all that stuff happens because of time travel. It happens always that way, and there was never any altering it. We're just viewing the causal loop. And then the other theory is that there's actually 3 or 4 timelines, not separate timelines like Marvel multiverse bullshit. It's like every time they go back in time, they alter the future.
Okay.
Which doesn't absolutely hold water for me because John Connor we assume John Connor turns out genetically the same as he did the first time. But here's kind of the way the thing goes is the first timeline is Sarah Connor meets a guy and she falls in love and they have a kid and they decide to name him John Connor. And then Skynet destroys everything and John Connor is lucky enough to survive and then also have the wits to become the leader of the resistance. Right. Which then they smash the defense grid. They win against Skynet. And then they discover that Skynet built a time machine and sent a thing back to kill his mom. And then he's like, fuck, we got to save my mom. Kyle Reese, you're a badass motherfucker. Go back and save my mom. So he sends her back. He sends him back. And then Kyle Reese ends up falling in love with John Connor's mother before she meets the dude in the first timeline. So as soon as they get sent back, they start altering the future from that point. And then Kyle Reese becomes John Connor's father in the first dude's stead, and they alter the future just a little bit. And Sarah's better prepared to teach John Connor how to become the leader of the resistance, and he becomes an even better leader of the resistance because of that. And then they're able to go forward with whatever it is that they do to get to smash the mainframe. And then at that point, he's also got the picture, and he already knows that Kyle Reese is going to be his father, and he's been actually grooming his father, who's younger than he is, to be his father, because he already knows that he's going to send him back in time because he's already heard the whole story from his mom.
Right.
So then he sends him back again, and this is going to be the third loop, and then all that stuff plays out again. But this time instead, she gets the idea to destroy Cyberdyne, and this is when hold on. I forgot the part where he sends Kyle Reese back in time, and then immediately afterwards, he finds out that they sent another Terminator back, not as far back in time, but more in the future, so 1992.
Yeah, it would have been the same timeline, you would think.
That would be the second timeline. Yeah, I'm getting tired.
Timeline, but further into the future on that timeline.
It'd be further in the future, so he's got to send somebody else back again. Okay, so now we enter the third loop. And that loop is in this one, because somebody's sent back in time and it alters the future. In T2, she gets the bright idea, there is no fate but what we make for ourselves. And we need to go alter the future by smashing Cyberdyne.
Mm-hmm. Okay. She got from John. That was something that John made Reese memorize.
Yeah.
There is no fate but what we make. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the original Terminator movie, and we're going to get to it here as soon as we can advance the slides a little bit and take a look, but we're going to get to that. But that line was cut out of the final cut of the movie, which was a shame. I mean, I don't normally advocate for going back and altering pieces of artwork to bring them up to speed, because we saw what Lucas did with the fucking original Star Wars trilogy. But I think in this case, if they would have just edited back in that, I think it would have been better. The future is not set. There is no fate but what we make for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in the original movie, Kyle doesn't say all that shit to Sarah Connor. They cut it out of the final cut.
Right. I think in Terminator 2, they mention, I think John mentions that Reese had taught her that when he sees the knife stuck in the table and it says that, he says that's something, I made him, learn in the future or something like that.
Yeah, but see, John Connor learned it from his mom.
Yeah.
And she learned it from Kyle. And Kyle learned it from John Connor.
Yes.
Okay.
Which John Connor did she learn it from? Here's a question. I'm kind of thinking. So we're talking about the whole John Connor, this and that. Is it the same biological person?
No,
kind of a nature versus nurture kind of an argument, right?
I guess so, yeah.
So is it that somehow he keeps it has to be Kyle Reese. It has to be that sperm and egg and the actual same DNA of John Connor is a more of nature, like this man was born to do this, regardless of timeline? Or is it more of a, well, like you were saying with the timeline there, is it a different father and it just happens to be that because she raised him a certain way? Well, you could see that in Terminator 2, but like you said, the first playthrough 1, if you want to call it something better than that, but playthrough 1, she's not the mother of the future. She even says it. You know?
Yeah. Do I look like the mother of the future?
She's not that person. Whatever guy would end up, getting with her, most likely is not that person, right? And somehow they would raise someone to be the leader of the resistance, so much so that they have to target him. That, the Terminators don't go back to do anything else. They're not sending them all over history to change a whole bunch of shit, right? They said, kill this guy. Kill his mother. That's all they cared about? That tells you something. There's nothing else you could have changed.
Yeah, there's definitely some plot holes.
Yeah.
There's definitely some plot holes. Okay, so what we got in the first movie is the bootstrap paradox, the grandfather paradox, and the let's kill Hitler paradox.
Okay, go ahead and walk those through.
All right, so real quick, the bootstrap paradox is usually described as a physical media or a physical item that has mass. So to put it in context, let's say you have a gold ring and you got the gold ring from an old man who gave you the gold ring when you were younger. Well, you'll have the gold. Huh?
Does it turn me invisible?
Yeah, and it makes all those around you really jealous and want to kill you for it.
Yeah, okay, that'll work.
Yeah, it makes Boromir eat arrows like I eat cheeseburgers.
Yeah. Right, continue.
Yeah. So let's say you have this gold ring, and you grow up big, and you've always had it, and it rubs in your pocket, it rubs on your fingers, you scrape it against, the handrails every time you walk upstairs or whatever. You wear this gold ring, and you get really, really old, and you invent a time machine, and you say, I need to go back and give myself this gold ring because it's important or whatever. So you go back in time, you're an old man, you give yourself the younger self the gold ring, and you say, hey, take this ring, wear it, and keep it with you all the time. And so you grow up in this time, this is the causal loop. Nothing can happen without everything else happening exactly the way it's always happened. but the gold ring continues to move forward in time, and then it goes backwards in time, same matter, and moves and goes over and over. It's stuck in a time loop. Eventually, the molecules will wear away. Eventually, it will be abraded enough to alter its physical dimensions. Eventually,
Right.
it'll wear away to nothing, and there won't be a ring anymore, right?
Maybe.
But it doesn't, right? Because in this mental gymnastics that you got to pull, this is illustrating how backwards time travel is not possible.
Oh yeah.
So where did the ring come from? It doesn't have an origin, and in this way, in this thinking bootstrap paradox, there is no way to explain the entropy or the degrading of the gold ring.
Right.
Okay, so keep that in mind. Grandfather paradox is you can't go back and kill your own grandfather. So if you were to build a time machine and you were to go back in time and meet your grandfather, put a bullet in his heart, then just like in Back to the Future, Marty McFly starts to disappear because he's undone what's supposed to happen in the future for him to be there.
Right.
He starts to fade. He sees his sister fade from the photograph, and then he sees his hands start to fade, and it's showing that he's being erased from the reality or whatever. But if you were to do that, then you would never have been born to build a time machine to go back in time to kill your grandfather. So therefore, your grandfather would still be alive for everything to have played out like it was the first time. And then you thus would be born to make the decision to build a time machine to go back and kill your grandfather. In which case you would then disappear and your grandfather would never be dead because you never did go back in time to kill your grandfather. You see what I'm saying? So that's the grandfather paradox.
So what would happen there is you would basically disappear before you pull the trigger, because you could go back in time and talk to your grandfather, but the second you decided to kill him, you now no longer exist, so you would vanish before his eyes before
I
you had a chance to kill him.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah,
Because that's where the timeline would skew, would be where you were about to kill him, about to shoot him, right?
Or it'd have to happen after. I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, but if he dies, then he has to regenerate somehow.
Yeah,
I think it wouldn't allow him to die to begin with, because if he's dead, you can't be born.
That's basically what you got to come to. That's the conclusion you got to come to, is that in that time travel scenario, that can't happen. It just won't happen.
Yeah,
because that's not how physics works.
That we know of.
Yeah, that we know of. And then lastly is the let's kill Hitler paradox, where basically it's like, hey, if you could go back in time and kill baby Hitler, would you do it?
Right.
Would you do it?
Man, as far as you look at the person, you go, yeah, no problem. What else does it cause? Who knows?
Yeah, sure. There's the other ripples.
You can see the future and see what it would do. That's the dilemma. I think that's the big dilemma. Is this person's going to kill millions of people and wipe him out. Well, if he's gone, what else changes? You think, well, but maybe that's the worst version, the worst timeline possible. Okay, if that's the case, then people are going to say, sure, wipe him out. But what if that's not the worst timeline possible?
Yeah. Yeah, but
there's an X-Men. There's like an X-Men thing on that, isn't there?
I don't remember.
I remember the old X-Men cartoons. I a little bit into comic books way, way, way back in the day. Never got enough to really remember any of it. But there was in the X-Men cartoons, which I'm assuming were based off of the comic books. They had who was it? Bishop. This guy Bishop goes back in time to kill someone because he was murdering a bunch of people, more or less, to keep it easy. And then someone further in the future, Cable, had to come back in time to stop Bishop because the stuff that Bishop was doing was causing a bigger issue.
Yeah.
That's the kind of paradox there. So again, the someone's thought of it and already covered it, but yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something you got to worry about when dealing with time travel. But you kicking a rock in the road could lead to a radically different future. Yeah. You just
especially when you start talking about killing people and
sure, or
So that's where it really gets like, but who knows what would change.
But it's not just actually killing people. It's just occupying a space. Like you taking up another space in a line, queued up in a line at the DMV could radically alter history. Yeah. Because two people may not bump into each other. And if they don't bump into each other, maybe they don't end up having a family that the offspring goes off to do something like cure cancer or something.
Right. Well, getting back to the Future 1.
Yeah.
push your father the other way so you get hit by a car. You're not born. Yeah. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
So if again, you kill Hitler, what else happens? I don't know.
But that's not what the kill Hitler paradox is.
Yeah.
The kill Hitler paradox is that when you go back in time to attempt to alter the past, you basically create a new vehicle, not automotive vehicle, but metaphorical vehicle, in which the same thing that you're trying to alter ends up happening anyway. Even though the circumstances may be different, or names are altered, or maybe even locations or something like that, but still the major nexus event occurs anyway. Like, if you go back and kill baby Hitler, there will still be a Hitler figure that rises to prominence in Germany and still ends up doing all of the atrocities and causing the war and stuff. His name just won't be Hitler. It'll be something else.
Yeah.
So these things... So just because, like, you go back and kill Hitler 1,000 times, or 1,000 different iterations of Hitler, but every time you go back to the future and you find out that it still happened anyway.
Yeah.
Or maybe, or you yourself becomes Hitler, actually. So there's another one that says, like, if you go back in time to meet Shakespeare, and you find out Shakespeare doesn't exist. You're a big Shakespeare fan, you know all the works. You go back in time, Shakespeare doesn't exist, and you don't know why. So you're stuck in the past. You don't know what to do with your time. You end up recreating the works of Shakespeare, and you become Shakespeare. You were always Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
So this movie touches every one of those three major paradoxes. Because the machines want to go back and kill Sarah Connor, who's Hitler in this case. They want to go back and kill Sarah Connor, but just by attempting to do so, all they're going to do is enact what is going to happen anyway.
Right.
And the grandfather paradox is they can't kill her because John Connor existed.
Okay.
And the bootstrap paradox is the information that doesn't have an origin. There is no fate but what we make for ourselves, or the information for building the Terminators to begin with. Because in the first, the first and the second movies, probably the where they get the technology to become as advanced as they are in robotics is from the things that come back from the future.
Yeah.
That's where did the Terminator arm come from?
Yeah.
And the microchip, the damaged microchip.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the bootstrap paradox.
Crazy.
Super crazy. Yeah, so time travel, just a spoiler alert for everybody listening, backwards time travel is impossible. It can't happen. Stephen Hawking did a little experiment. He tried to prove that backwards time travel can't exist, will never exist. He threw a party on a Friday night. He invited privately, verbally, a couple of his close intellectual friends, and they, played Parcheesi and drank some wine and chilled out, or did whatever, famous big brain people do.
Right.
And then he put an ad in the paper a week later saying that last week there's going to be a party if anybody would like to attend. And see, no one else showed up that wasn't invited. So he put an ad in the paper after the party occurred. And anybody in the future, like, we've all heard about it. Most all of us have heard about it. So you would think that somebody, if they were to build a time machine, say 50 years in the future, they'd be like, that's one thing we got to do, bro.
Yeah, we got to go bust that up. Yeah.
We got to go back to the party and talk to Stephen Hawking about the time machine.
Yeah.
But that no one showed up.
So I'd say that's a, what's the word? There's a word for that. I'm blanking on it. But what? Oh, I'm blanking out on the word for it. But that's kind of interesting. But it's only like a small portion. Like maybe the people that invented the time machine didn't see the paper or didn't give a shit about Stephen Hawking or something.
I agree.
But there was one thing that I thought was interesting. That there was a guy, I don't know, some kind of physicist, that I guess his father died. It's almost like a bad movie. His father died, and he wanted to invent time travel so he could go back to talk to his father again. And he was looking into all kinds of stuff with lasers, like it has to do, if time and energy and he's just looking at all these equations, and he figured out if you can use a powerful enough laser and this and that and blah blah blah, you can probably create like a small time loop or paradox in a small location inside of a machine, was his theory. And he was saying, well, that would probably give you the ability to walk in and out of time. But he was saying the problem with that is that it would only go back as far as the machine was turned on. So if you could turn this machine on in 1980 and leave it on till today, you would be able to walk into the machine and transport to any point in time through that time loop back to 1980. But if you wanted to just travel back to 1979, you couldn't, because the machine didn't exist. So it was kind of an interesting, so he basically proved to himself that he couldn't go back and talk to his father because his father died before he would have created the machine.
Yeah, that's an interesting...
Kind of where he abandoned it. But I thought that was kind of interesting where, okay, well, what if you have something like that in Terminator? Maybe if Skynet was already around, is there already some kind of... maybe they're able to travel back in time because they've already got something created somewhere in some military base.
Yeah, that's...
who knows? Just,
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. I like that a lot. Well, what if they sent the whole machine back in time?
Yeah.
I mean, what if they built two of them and they took one machine and turned it on and sent it back to the year 900 AD? That way you could go back in time whenever you wanted to. I guess if the machine survives.
Yeah. But it would have to come whenever I don't know. Just another little thing to throw out there for anyone else who wants to talk about theory of time travel.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I want to say one last thing before I forget about this time travel shit. So I've thought about it a lot. Backwards time travel is impossible. A lot of people agree. It's fun to think about. It's fun to make movies about and stuff. But however, time travel into the future is very possible.
Yeah.
We're doing it right now.
Yes. Very, very slowly.
Very slowly, at a steady rate almost. But no, we can actually time travel into the future. Science has proved this, and a lot of people talk about it. The faster that we go, the faster, relative to everything else in the universe that we go, the slower time moves for us, but the faster everything else away from us seems to be affected by time. Everything speeds up around us. And also, the closer you are to a major gravity well.
Oh, yeah. Getting into interstellar.
Yeah. So if you're really close to the sun, which has an immense amount of gravity, if you're able to not get cooked, just outside of its coronal whatever radiation, if you were to chill over there in a spaceship and then come back to Earth, maybe, for instance, maybe 10 years feels like it passes for you, but you arrive back to Earth and it's been 30 years.
Okay. Well, you're also looking at Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Planet of the Apes, they're in some kind of spaceship and they go up to do something. I forget. It's been a long time since I've seen it. And then when they come back down to Earth, in their time, it's been a few months or a year or whatever, and they land and it's, you know, thousands of years later or whatever the timeline was.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing. They just went up there and time was moving slower for them than on Earth.
Yes.
And yeah, so almost like when you put meat in a freezer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The meat that you didn't put in the freezer, you know, once you thaw it out, you know, that other meat's really, really green and smelly. But this meat's still fine. It's the same kind. You're just slowing down the aging process and just slowing down time somehow, however that works.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Slowing
is there
down.
a way to travel? I wonder if there's a way to travel faster. I don't know.
So the way to travel faster into the future would be to be in some sort of apparatus that makes that you can travel in that moves very, very fast, very quickly. I'm not saying like, you know, 1% of the speed of light, but it would probably help. But then also be orbiting a major gravity well. So that way you get to double penetrate, so to speak, the forwards time travel phenomenon.
Well, or if you go to less gravity, you know, if a large amount of gravity makes you travel through time slower, then a lack of gravity should make you travel through time faster. No. So if everyone on Earth here is experiencing a certain amount of gravity from Earth and you're out in the middle of, you know, fucking nowhere universe, is time traveling faster for you out in the middle of nowhere with no gravity around? Let's say, you know, the closest planet is, you know, hundreds of billions of miles away. Are you going to be able to travel faster into the future than people on Earth? So that'd be interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. So they proved what I'm saying here with atomic clocks. They had an atomic clock here on the surface of the Earth, and then they put another atomic clock, which is supposed to be highly accurate to the, you know, sub-millionth of a second or something like that. And
I think Accutron or something like that.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I've heard something about Accutron, something other. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, so they had two atomic clocks, and presumably they were set exactly. They were synchronous in their calibration. They were both exactly same. They took one up in the fastest fighter jet, whatever it was, Concorde or some shit. I don't know. You know, don't get me. I don't know much about planes, but they took one up in a really fast flying jet and flew as far as the tank would let it fly and come back safely. And then they measured the two clocks, and the clock that went up in the plane was slower, was behind the atomic clock that was left on Earth.
Mm.
So it experienced less time than the one that was left on Earth.
Right.
And this is
the one on Earth was closer to gravity. I mean,
but the gravity from Earth is not that great. It's not. Yeah. It's almost a non-factor. And besides that, the plane can't get away from Earth's gravity far enough for it to make a difference.
Right.
It's like you standing on top of your house versus you standing at the foot of your step, like being up on the roof versus being on the first step of your house. And then you zoom out and you're at the foot of Mount Everest. You know, like your elevation change doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and so this is a repeatable scientific experiment, proving that forwards time travel is absolutely possible.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. But in this case, Terminator, the time travel is possible and things make sense and they can go back in time and, you know, kill people. All right.
Why do we have to kill people when we go in the past?
I don't know, because it would be like not exciting if you were to go back in time and just knit sweaters all day.
Yeah, right. Hey, maybe he'll need sweaters.
Yeah. We're knitting sweaters for all the people that live at the equator.
Yes, the equator especially.
Yeah, because you know they're in high demand there.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like after the Terminator meets the punks and he kills the punks and takes their clothes, Kyle Reese, we get to see the awesome lightning effects in the editing here of the movie where Kyle Reese is sent back in time. But when Schwarzenegger's Terminator is, we see him for the first time in the time displacement orb or whatever, he's like kneeled down all cool like, and everything's great with him, like he's fine, it feels like that's the way it's supposed to be. Right. But then Kyle Reese falls from like 5 foot up in the air and lands sideways on the fucking pavement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Like somebody just, threw a sack of dirty laundry out a window.
So that makes you wonder you ever played the game? There was a game on PlayStation 2 called Terminator Dawn of Fate.
You
ever played that one? I
don't think I did.
So you're fighting in the future war and you're trying to get to the point you're Kyle Reese, and you're trying to get to that point where he goes back in time, and I can't remember the ending, but I remember you like walk into the room and the Terminator's kneeling down on the, whatever pad or platform they use to send you back in time, and he gets zapped out of there. But I can't remember how Reese ends up getting onto the platform. But what's funny about it, the way he falls, it's almost as if there's a time bubble and he just like jumps into it, you have to wonder in the future, like, was he on a platform and the thing was about to close and he just like, oh, you've only got 1 second, and he had to jump and dive into it, and then he comes landing bag of shit down on his side.
Yeah.
Or did something actually happen where he did the exact same thing the Terminator did, and for some reason he got lifted 5 feet up in the air and spun sideways? Like, I don't understand how that works, but
I think what it was the what was left of whatever Skynet influenced AI or computers or whatever, because they were in a Skynet facility sending him back. Basically, the robot was like, oh, "Fuck, man, it's a cop spitting this dude's burger." Like, oh, it's the humans. Fucking make sure he feels like shit on the other end of this time travel thing.
I'll take a liter of cola.
Yeah, a liter of cola. It's for a cop.
Yeah.
Why'd you tell him that? Oh, that's so they make it good.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting, though. And what's funny, you get to like second Terminator, and the T-1000 lands normal, right?
Yeah.
At that time, if you don't know the preview stuff, you think, okay, maybe this is the good guy. But he lands normal, from what we understand. You see a little cutout in the ground, the fence is cut, and what's interesting is. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think you don't ever see the T-1000 actually arrive on the scene.
But you can see the cutout in the fence in the ground. You can tell it happened at the same location. When Kyle Reese lands, there's no like orange glowing cutout, half circle.
No, yeah.
In the ground. He actually, the bubble appears in the sky.
Yeah.
It doesn't touch the ground. So he's the only one that does that.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I see what you're saying.
Weird. Why was he, a couple feet off the ground? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, since you mentioned the T-1000, I have to mention genitals. So they had to like digitally erase Robert Patrick's genitals in T1 in T2.
Yeah,
because they were hanging down when he kneels down to get the cop's gun and cock it.
Yeah, interesting terminology there for loading the gun.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. You see what I did there?
Yeah,
and then also in like in T1 here, man, Arnold Schwarzenegger's fully frontally nude. And when he's walking towards the punks, man, you can see his uncircumcised dingus just fucking flopping back and forth.
God.
It's a spectacle, man. He's got an impressive wiener. Which takes a lot of courage to be naked in front of a camera, dude. Take it from me, I know.
Oh, yeah. The first 20 times I tried it, it was kind of scary. No,
yeah. So apparently, James Cameron's really interested in naked dudes. Apparently,
naked dude. Yeah. Why can't we have more women going back in time?
which that's what we got in T3 that you didn't like.
Yeah. Well, okay, but you didn't.
Yeah,
it still wasn't. I don't know.
You don't get to see any wobbly bits.
Yeah. See. There you go.
They
had the scene where she like inflates, or whatever by the cop.
Yeah.
She looks up at the billboard and like sees a girl with like lingerie on and inflates her boobs or whatever. It was kind of like a weird gimmicky joke, but it was like, I don't know, kind of weird.
Yeah. Interesting manipulation tactic.
Yeah.
I wonder I wonder if there was manipulation tactics before in these films, maybe before that, by the Terminators.
Okay. What would you? Is there anything off the top of your mind?
The only thing I can come up with is whatever.
The T1000. I mean, the T1000 was basically everything was manipulation tactic with his step parents. His mother at the end of the movie. Like he's always doing manipulation tactics to get closer to him. But on the first Terminator, he pretty much kicks doors in and shoots at people.
yeah. So Arnold Schwarzenegger plays the T800 Model 101, I guess.
Yeah, sounds right.
And then T2, he's the T850 Model 101. So he's a little bit more advanced in the first one, and that's the reason why the haircut's a little different.
Oh yeah,
and that's all.
That was the update. Was the hair?
It was the hair, and also that he had a learning computer. The first one, apparently, the T800 didn't have a learning computer, but we can get into that later.
Mm-hmm.
The T1000 does exhibit some manipulation tactics. At one point, he butters up a cop and he says, "Hey, that's a nice bike." Yeah, he doesn't need to say, "Hey, that's a nice bike." He could have just said, and then just killed him. Like he could have just reached up and just slit his throat.
Right.
He manipulates. He tries to pretend to be John Connor's mom, and he does a pretty good acting job being Linda Hamilton. Or what's Linda Hamilton's sister's name? Fuck, I forget.
Her twin?
Yeah, her twin.
I forget her name.
Yeah, I forget her name. I don't. Man, that's just too much to talk about. So so both the Hamiltons were in that movie in two different scenes. One in the end scene where T1000 is mimicking her, and then she shows up and shoots with a shotgun. And then also earlier in T2 when they're doing an operation on Arnie's head to reset the learning computer.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a mirror in the movie where you can see. It's a really interesting shot, but in the DVD release, they actually trimmed that scene down a lot, and it's now available as a deleted scene, which should have absolutely been in the movie because it's so it's so good. But it's two different people playing Arnold Schwarzenegger, so it's a stand-in for his back of his head. And
it's not even a mirror. They make you think there's a mirror.
You tell it better. Say
through like an empty window, acting like there's a mirror, and you have Arnold Schwarzenegger sitting across from you, and you have someone playing like a stand-in that's the back of his head. I know what you're talking about.
And then so it's Linda Hamilton's sister that's in with Arnold Schwarzenegger on the other side of the window. Right. Being the out of focus, further away Sarah Connor, and it's actually Linda Hamilton that's closer to the camera playing Sarah Connor
next to the Arnold stand-in.
Correct. Yeah,
and that's kind of interesting because they have to time all of their movements, as if it's a mirror.
Yeah,
it's like that's a lot of work for something you cut out.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, you would never have known if you didn't. Even I remember watching some of that, and you're watching, you're like, this is not a mirror. Golly.
Yeah, it's an achievement. I mean, a spectacle.
Yeah.
And then they decided to trim it out. They totally should have left it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that scene also explains why he's able to start like smiling all goofy like in the movie. And
they took the goofy smile out too.
Did they take the goofy smile out?
So they had that smile where he goes up to that, there's a deleted scene where John goes up to order like a taco or something, and the lady at the booth was had just a sour look on her face. She wasn't happy at all, and he's kind of talking to her for a second, and he ends up saying to the Terminator, and he's like, "Do you ever try to smile once in a while?" He doesn't even know what it is. He ends up having to like use his Terminator vision and scan someone's face when they're smiling.
Yeah.
And then he has this really goofy, like fake attempt at smiling it was just horrendous.
Yeah.
And John's like maybe you need some practice. That kind of like, like this was terrible.
Yeah.
But I think that part was like a deleted scene that never made it to the movie.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also it explains why he's able to start picking up on the language and all this other stuff, saying "Hasta la vista, baby."
Right. They take out when they take out that chip, they reset it. So they take out the chip or something and reset it and plug it back in. So it like deletes some kind of behavioral procedure or something, which I don't know if I would do, because what if it wipes out the programming where he's supposed to protect John and he just turns back into a killing machine.
Yeah,
but anyway,
that would have sucked. That would have been a completely different movie.
Yeah, he just stands up and slaughters both of them right there, and it's over.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, okay, nice.
We've definitely altered the future now. Yeah. So Kyle Reese has a tough start to his journey. He lands on the pavement like a sack of shit, and he's out of breath, like he's had all the wind knocked out of him, and he seems to be more tired and less prepared. Like he has a really rough start, and that's on purpose. To the writer's credit, to the directing, they wanted to make it seem like the Terminator has his journey on easy mode, basically, and it's a fucking struggle for Kyle Reese from the get-go.
Yep.
So he meets the bum in the alley, and the bum is like, "Hey, man, did you see that real bright light?" Yeah. That bum guy, he plays the Vagrant, I think is the name of it. He plays like a homeless man in like 7 other movies and TV shows, like immediately after this movie. Like that was his thing.
Right. It's typecast.
Yeah. Yeah. He nailed the derelict thing down to a T and just capitalized his career on that. And Kyle Reese steals his pants, and then the cops for some reason show up and are like, "Hey, got to chase you down."
Well, he stole his pants.
Yeah. Cops didn't know that, but I mean...
Well, he screams at him, "He stole my pants!"
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But they were chasing him before that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think they pull up, and immediately they're like, "Hey, man, what the hell are you doing in this alley?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was like immediately after him.
Yeah, so now he's involved in a chase, which the Terminator didn't have any problems with that. Basically, the Terminator is able to just kill, indiscriminately and just get away with it. And Kyle Reese can't even get a fucking set of pants.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to point out, dude, he's got scars all over his body.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got scars on his back, scars on his front. So he's had a rough, trying to show us that he's been through some shit.
Right.
All right, so Kyle Reese is able to Jimmy Jack a cop. I don't know how you put it. He like ambushes him or whatever, and then rips his 38 special revolver out, and then threatens the cop, with some violence. What does he ask the cop? Do you remember?
I was going to watch it last night, and I fell asleep on the couch.
He asked him, what's the date?
Oh, yeah. What day is it? And he's like, oh, whatever. What year?
Yeah, what year?
I make that comment all the time. My wife's probably tired of hearing it, like a bad joke. It'll be like a Sunday, and I'll be like, God, what day is it? And she's like, it's Sunday. And I'll be like, what year?
What year? Yeah.
She'll shake her head like, what the hell? Yeah.
It's so emotionally charged, though.
Yeah. Because he doesn't know if he's in the right time yet. He could be in 1982 or 1988. He has no idea.
Yeah, I mean, lucky for them, they show up at the same at the same time.
Yeah, as far as he knows, he could be in a completely different decade. He has no idea. He just knows it's pre-war torn, whatever. So,
yeah, imagine the culture shock that he's going through too. Like he sees buildings that are actually like put together. Holy shit!
There's people walking around,
and they're not. Yeah, and they're not freaking out.
Yes.
They're not using bounding cover, fucking look into the sky for hunter killers. What is this place?
Yeah, right.
There's free food everywhere.
What the fuck is going on?
Yeah. And then so he kicks in the door of a Goodwill or something like that. It kind of seems like it's not your normal department store. And then the cops kind of, are scoping out. He checks out some Nikes that are just in a bin, and he measures them up with his feet, and it looks like they're a good fit.
Yeah.
Which I think is really neat, because, I mean, and what would you get nowadays? You wouldn't even get something like that. The character would just show up fully dressed and looking immaculate.
That's how that usually works. Yeah.
Yeah, because
easy. It would no hurdles to get what they needed.
Yeah, or no checking for size or anything. It would just be the right one.
Yeah.
Yeah, movies nowadays just can't take the time to make things more practical and believable from a character-driven point of view.
Right.
And then Kyle Reese, I guess he jukes him or whatever, and he gets out of the building and then takes their pump shotgun, out of the cop car. Yep. And then we see the Terminator. He bashes some hillbilly dude at the phone booth. And then checks the phone record.
Yes.
He sees Sarah Connor's name 3 times here. I never noticed before, but I thought there was more Sarah Connors. Like our Sarah Connor is only the third one down in the list.
Right.
But I never really looked. I just assumed underneath his finger there was another 4 or 5 Sarah Connors. And she was just the third one on the list.
Especially in Los Angeles, you would think there'd be 40 of them.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know why I thought there was more, but I mean, I've been looking real close to this still frame, and it's evident that there was only 3.
Yeah.
So she was the final Sarah Connor. I think it's an interesting thought to think. What if he could never get to Sarah Connor, and he was just like, I'll circle back to her later. I'm going to go on to the 5th Sarah Connor or whatever.
Oh, right.
And so he just continues to eliminate Sarah Connors all over the fucking state.
It's a killing spree, yeah.
Yeah. It's a Sarah Connor killer.
Yep. That's pretty much what he was. I mean,
yeah, they even said
it's 3 in a row. Yeah.
Yeah,
they were already starting to talk about it,
Yeah, they were calling him the phone book killer.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yep.
His left hand in this, I didn't capture it in the still frame that I sent you, but in his left hand, you only see it for a split second, but his left finger stops on John Connor. Not that he's looking for a John Connor, but it's just an interesting thing for us, the audience, to see that the Terminator was like, "There's John Connor. I'm just going to stop there. I'm looking for the S's. Sarah Connor. Boom."
Yeah. It's like he did some math. Oh, he's not born yet. That's not the right one.
he was like,
"Oh, John Connor. Oh, wait, no, wrong one." Yeah.
Oh, fuck! I almost forgot. What's my name? What am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Terminator hijacks a station wagon.
Right.
And then we get the cool scene where you see Arnold Schwarzenegger in a pawn shop. I always thought it was a gun store, but apparently it's a pawn shop. Headed up by his Dick Miller is the actor that plays the clerk at the pawn shop.
Been 1,000 different movies. He's 10 seconds, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, he always plays a minor character. I think most famously, I remember him from Gremlins.
Okay, right.
He was like the drunk guy that drove the tractor.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you ever see the movie Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight?
Yeah, I remember Demon Knight. It was a good one.
That one. I'd say the two I know him from. Well, I guess 3: Terminator, Demon Knight, and Gremlins. But yeah,
he was in a fuckload of shit back then. Good character actor, I guess is what they call it when you just play. You just fill in for a character.
Right.
Yeah. And, of course, the Terminator's like, hey, I need a Uzi 9mm. I need a phased plasma rifle and a 20-watt range.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what the fuck a phased plasma rifle is. All I got's a shotgun.
Yeah, only what you see, buddy.
Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah, only what you see, pal. Hands him a Spaz 12 shotgun. Hey, you can't do that. As Arnold Schwarzenegger loads the shotgun in front of him, it blows him the fuck away. And then we see Kyle Reese taking a hacksaw blade and just by hand hacksawing the stock down to make a sawed-off shotgun.
Well, does he do does he saw off the actual barrel?
No, it's a stock.
The stock so he can hide it easier. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little bit shorter underneath his arm. And then he gets a length of nylon rope or whatever it is, polyester rope. And he weaves up a simple over-the-arm harness to hang the gun from, which is a great idea.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, in the movie Terminator Salvation, Kyle Reese learns the rope around the arm tied to the gun dangling underneath your armpit trick from the good guy Terminator in Terminator Salvation. So then there's another bootstrap causal loop or whatever where... oh, no, it's not a causal loop. Never mind, because Terminator doesn't learn it from him. But I guess it's just a callback, basically, in Terminator Salvation. There's like, hey, you remember Kyle Reese? You remember him when he did the rope shotgun thing in the first Terminator movie? Well, he learned that from our new character that we invented for Terminator Salvation.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah.
Did you like Terminator Salvation?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually did like it, and I kind of wish we had more of those movies that took place during the Future War. Like none of the Terminators have to necessarily be a action thriller horror movie.
Yeah.
They could have just made like a military op movie where it's just like it does, like the genre doesn't have to be the same. You can make a different genre and it'd still be in the same universe.
Right.
Yeah, like they could have made a like a Black Hawk Down sort of story set in 2029. That would have been cool.
Good Lord, yeah. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the video games end up going. Things like that, where they kind of fill out because it's just pure action. So you have, it's shoot 'em up video games. There's another one I bought. I've only played it for like 10 minutes on computer. I think it's called Terminator Resistance or something like that.
Yeah, it came out like 2 years ago.
Yeah. I bought it on sale, played it for maybe it was longer than maybe it was like 30 minutes. Just enough to kind of figure out what the hell you're doing. And then I'll pick this up tomorrow and forget to and come back 2 years later. But
yeah.
Yeah, but it seems like that's kind of where that falls into is all the video game realm, because it's like, okay, go make video games where you just shoot things up. Even the old Terminator 2 arcade game. Way back in the day that had that was like one of the most famous arcade games that had the two guns mounted up there in front. Have you ever played that one?
Yeah, it's like a Time Crisis.
I forget what it's called. Maybe that's it.
Well, I mean, it's
just have that first-person shooter, and there's Terminators walking towards you, and you're shooting at them and all that.
Yeah, it's like it's on rails. It's an on-rail shooter,
right?
Where it drives you from screen to screen and pilots you around, and all you got to do is shoot the screen.
Right, and I actually played that one a couple months ago. There's a video game, like old school video game place that had it there. And I was like, oh shit, I gotta play this. I haven't played this in fucking 20 years or whatever.
Hell yeah. Yep. I would say Duck Hunt was the first game that I know of that did that. The light gun shooting at the screen.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Yeah, one of the things I like to do. Huh?
You have to have the tube television.
Yeah, gotta have the CRT. Yeah, that's one of the things I like to do. I like to play one of those arcade games in the middle of the arcade, like Terminator there that you're talking about, and I like to just say, Duck Hunt did it better.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So then we see the Terminator pulling up to the first Sarah Connor's house, and he crushes the hell out of a little toy 18-wheeler, I guess is what it is.
Toy truck. Yep.
I forget the design, the cab over engine, I guess is what it is. Yeah, so that foreshadows what Cameron had planned for T2, I think. No, yeah. I'm joking. I think is supposed to actually foreshadow a little bit of the chase scene at the very end of the movie where he hijacks the cab over semi-truck and chases him down. All right, so he's nice enough to knock on the door, and she opens, and then he shoots her in the fucking head with his laser handgun.
Yep.
What I learned recently doing the research for this is that the lasers were not prominent back then. So even though I think that laser actually worked on that gun, it had to be battery powered. And the battery was like huge. So he's got a cord running from that gun down his sleeve to a battery that's like on the ground behind his back.
Our battery almost, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
shit, because nowadays we just have a couple little bitty disc batteries that we slide in the end of it, and yeah,
like some CR32s or 357s or whatever.
Yep, 357s. That's what I've got in one of mine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's odd. So we're meant to believe that the batteries are in that laser, but that whole tube is the cathode array and the whole or whatever. And then I guess we get to see Sarah Connor as the waitress that she is, innocent and kind of overwhelmed with everything, kind of getting shit on by everybody.
Yeah.
And her coworkers real obnoxious.
Kid, what's he say?
What? What is it?
When the kid dumps the ice cream in her thing, and he's like, "I should give you a tip or whatever."
Yeah. Man, I'd hate to clear ice cream out of my pocket. That sucked. When I was a kid, real quick, I put gum in my blue jeans pocket, thinking I could save it for later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was chewing some gum. I must have been probably 2. And I took the gum out of my mouth, put it in my pocket because I was going to save it for later. And then, of course, it went through the washer and the dryer. And that pocket never opened again. Yeah, it was sealed shut with bubble gum.
Yeah.
All right. So now we get to see another flash forward or a memory of Kyle when he was in the Future War.
Mm-hmm. And
he's getting shot at by a bunch of hunter killers. I don't know if he meant the hunter killers were the flying things or the drivey tank tread things.
That's something that was described in that video game I was talking about, but I forget the difference because they have the different models and all this different shit.
Mm-hmm.
I forget there's a stipulation. I think they're basically the same thing, but there's some kind of model differentiation. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
stipulation is.
You could probably spend hours and hours of your life trying to break down the lore.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So he activates some sort of glowing tube that's meant to be a bomb or whatever, like a pipe bomb sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he throws it underneath the tank tread of this thing as it stops, which is interesting because he resorts to using pipe bombs at the end of the movie.
Right.
So apparently maybe that was some undertext or some subtext or whatever that I've never picked up on before, but maybe he was really more comfortable with explosives to kill these things.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, huh?
Dismember them. Maybe they're not dead, but if they're not, fully capable of chasing you, that's good enough, right?
That's smart as hell. I like that. I like your take on that. You could actually apply that same sort of logic to zombies.
Yeah.
Like you don't
Evil Dead.
or
the movie The Evil Dead?
Evil Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
The Deadites.
Body dismemberment. Yes, exactly. Yeah. See, it might still be, the arms might still be wiggling and moving around the floor, but they can't mount an assault on you the same way when they're all together.
I don't know. The first Evil Dead movie, man, his hand, after he cut his hand off, his hand was fucking with him.
The second one, yeah. The second one, they do that with his hand. But in the first one, he ends up chopping someone up who's trying to kill them, and all the body parts are just wiggling around on the floor. And
yeah.
But the guy even says total body dismemberment is what he was recommending. Oh,
on the tape?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I love it.
But anyways, yes,
yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, Dead Space also did the dismemberment thing.
Mm.
The video game Dead Space where you got to cut their limbs off to kill them.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea. To blow them up with explosives. So apparently he had a partner, and she gets targeted by the hunter killer, and the hunter killer completely just turns her into a vaporizes her, I guess.
Yep.
And then his bomb goes off and blows the thing up, and he hops into a really badass looking damaged, like, destruction derby car.
Yeah.
And then they they're trying to cruise around and escape the hunter killer that's after him now.
And the flying one, yeah. They have to shoot at it. Yep.
Yeah. And then it's just pumping those purple lasers all over the place.
Yeah.
Blast the car, and then they flip the car over, and we see Reese trapped in the car when it catches fire, and I guess the Terminators think they did their job. I guess he gets cooked a little bit.
Hence some of the scars later.
Yes. And that's the point where he snaps awake in the car that he just stole. He snaps awake and cocks a shotgun, ready to do some damage, and realizes it was not just a nightmare.
From hearing a piece of heavy construction equipment. You'd have like PTSD every time anyone had to use a backhoe or something.
Oh, shit. Yeah, skid steer. Somebody fires up the skid steer, and you're like immediately, you start sweating bullets. Damn. I didn't even think about that. Holy shit. Or how about like a big mechanical door opens and you hear the servos and the pistons?
Oh, right.
Pressure up.
Yep.
So I got this thing. So here's the first time Sarah Connors, we see her at home and on the phone. She answers the phone and it's her roommate's boyfriend. And he thinks that, I forget the roommate's name. I think it was like Janet or something like that. But he thinks he's talking to her. So he starts talking some really stupid male ego sex stuff to her.
Yeah.
And Sarah thinks it's real funny, and she hands the phone off to her roommate. But I want to go ahead and mention this, something that I noticed. Every time Sarah picks up the phone, it's bad news. So she picks up this phone, and she's getting sex stuff talked to her by somebody she's not interested in hearing, that sort of stuff. And then the second time is her boyfriend calls and leaves a voice message and cancels. And then she calls and gets the run around by the police when she's trying to report that she has somebody stalking her and she's scared. She gets the run around. She doesn't get to somebody fast enough. And then she calls her apartment, leaving a voicemail telling the Terminator that she's at the Tech Noir Club.
Yep.
Yeah, so if she doesn't make that call, the Terminator, here coming up real quick, the Terminator kills, we'll say Janice, I forget her name, but kills Janet, thinking that it's Sarah Connor, and then Sarah calls and leaves a voicemail, and that's when he's like, oh shit, Sarah's on the phone, Sarah's not here, I need to actually go out and find Sarah at the Tech Noir Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that deception we were talking about, the manipulation aspect.
Yeah.
Disguising his voice because he couldn't disguise his, skin. But yeah, there was that. And also he does it earlier. The cop car. He takes the cop car and answers one of the calls as if he was that cop, Yeah.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? He smashes that cop over the head, and then he jumps in that cop car, and then he gets a radio call, and he says, yeah, pursuing subject on 5th and Barrett, or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's interesting. But he didn't even need to take the call. I don't know why he did that.
Well, yeah. Because if he doesn't answer, there you have someone looking for him.
Maybe that's exactly what it is. I wonder if he was going to go to the station and clock out for the guy too.
Yeah.
Like go home and make dinner for his wife
and murder them,
and then murder them. Well, I mean, look at what Janelle does. What T1000 does with Janelle and T2. When John Connor and the Terminator make the telephone call in the phone booth.
Yep.
He says, Todd and Janelle are dicks.
Yeah.
Huh?
Your foster parents are dead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's so good. Your foster parents are dead. But when he calls, she's sitting there slicing carrots up. He, the Terminator 1000.
Yeah. Just playing mom or whatever.
Yeah. It's so like, what was that conversation before that phone call? She's sitting there talking to Todd about their sex life. Or she's sitting there saying, what kind of movie we're going to watch tomorrow?
Yeah, what was going on?
Yeah, what the fuck? And so if John Connor hadn't called in that moment,
yeah,
would she have continued to make the stew that night?
I think for at least a little while until there was something else. But how far did she go? That's the question.
Yeah. So
he's like, hey, the kid's not here. Let's have some fun. Like how far?
Yeah. How grippy is that liquid metal, the Medi polyalloy pussy? That's what I want to know.
That's what we need to find out. We need scientific studies.
Yeah. Somebody get on this stat. Report back with your findings. But yeah, so she was sitting. She was like, "John, come home. I'm making beef stew." She says that on the phone to him. So it's like, God damn, was she going to make mashed potatoes and gravy to go along with it? What the fuck?
Yeah, apparently.
And then after that, I'm going to wash all the dishes, and then I'm going to sanitize the floors, just like you always wanted.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that you get that new Kawasaki X550 bike you've been wanting.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. What's funny is how the T1000 knew the second they hung up, knew that they were on to him.
Yeah.
So like killed the foster father and walks off and leaves and never comes back. Obviously knew that they didn't buy the deception.
Yeah, the gig was up.
You didn't have to say that. Just said, it's just, well, the gig's up. Kill this guy and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so I guess at that time that's when John discovers that the T1000. I think Terminator tells John Connor the T1000's next move is going to be to find your mom.
Yes.
And then that's the reason why they meet up at the mental hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, brilliant. Good stuff. Okay. Yeah, and then last but not least, of course, you mentioned that the Terminator disguised its voice. He does it again when he
Recites John Connor, yeah.
No. In this movie, Sarah Connor's mom.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He imitates Sarah Connor's mom. So when he can't find Sarah Connor and he's at a dead end, he finds her mom and goes to her cabin or whatever, and then tortures her there and kills her. Apparently, you can see in the background, you can like see her feet against the wall. I don't know what that's about, but it's presumed, like, she's killed off screen, but it's presumed that he tortured and killed her and then just sat there and waited for a phone call.
So he would have needed her voice, listen to her voice a little bit, get some,
Yeah, just like that program I was telling about earlier. You feed it 60 seconds of somebody's voice, and it will 90% accurately feed you back anything in that intonation. And so the Terminator
that's exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, so that's what he did. So that's how at the end of the movie, that's how they were busted at the Tiki Motel. That's why the Terminator shows up, is because Sarah Connor, she picks up the fucking phone and creates some more bad juju. So
never answer your phone.
Don't answer your phone. Don't talk on the phone. Don't give away information on the phone. The Chinese are listening to you.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to get this podcast deleted.
Yeah, right.
They're going to fucking nuke this podcast just because I said China's behind it.
Yeah, right.
TikTok's bad for you kids.
Yep.
So that's an interesting thing to point out, is that most every time it has anything to do with the phone in this movie, the technology at the time, the phone was a contemporary new technology that everybody in their household had. So there was a lot of movies and stuff that were coming out around the same time that had to do with this newfound common technology that everybody's using.
Yeah.
Briefly mentioning the movie The Ring, the horror movie The Ring. A lot happens with the phone. So there was a lot. I can't think of any other ones other than Maximum Overdrive, The Fly, Westworld, Ghost in the Machine, Lawnmower Man, or VHS, or there's been a bunch of other ones, but they use that same sort of 1990s technology to try to, as a vehicle, to create their horror story.
Scream?
Yeah, so there was definitely they were terrorizing all the students with the voice modulator, but over the phone. Yeah.
Yeah. They'd call on the phone and want to play a game. Yeah, same kind of thing.
Want to play a game? Yeah. I want to see what your insides look like.
Turn to page 32.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nice.
Not quite the same movie. Close enough, yeah.
What was that sound? Oh, I farted. I didn't think you'd hear that. No, that popping sound. Oh, I'm making popcorn.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Yep, Scary Movie was the first. The first one was really good. The rest of them, I think, kind of sucked.
Yeah. Again, the original idea, though it's goofy and stupid, it's good at what it does. And then every subsequent sequel gets worse and worse and worse. Yeah.
Yep.
Here's something. I'm looking at your freeze frame 41.
Okay.
And let me see, just a second. Some things I was thinking about that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
The whole storyline of it. This actually goes back to as well is the part where Kyle Reese first meets Sarah Connor when he gets her in the car, right?
Yeah.
This is out in the future here, actually.
This is all chronological.
Yeah, so that's further out. That hasn't happened yet. Okay, yeah. I was thinking cops. I was thinking the police station.
Okay, we'll get there real fast. So she licks her lizard. Everybody thinks it's gross. She kisses on her lizard. She leaves to go watch a movie or something, and then Kyle Reese follows her because he apparently knows where her address is. So he follows her on her little scooter, and then we hear in the police station Lieutenant Traxler and Vukovic. They have a conversation about this new telephone book killer, and they try to reach Sarah Connor, and that was 41.
Okay, that's 41.
Yeah.
Okay, so you haven't gotten to 42 yet. Okay,
yeah, so
go ahead. I got a couple notes, just little drop in stuff here, and then I got a little bit of conversation. Go ahead.
Okay, 42. Yeah, so she's at the bar place or whatever, getting something to eat, and she hears over the news another person by the name of Sarah Connor has been killed, and she freaks out. And that's when she realizes the thing I heard earlier in the day about Sarah Connor dying, and now I'm hearing it again. There's obviously a pattern. I need to get the fuck out of here. So she's walking down the street trying to find a payphone. She tries to use the phone. It doesn't work in the place. It's out of service. So she's walking down the street trying to find some place to get to a phone so she can call the police. And then she notices this creepy dude. I guess you can call him creepy. I think he's pretty handsome. She sees this guy that we know as Kyle Reese walking in a trench coat behind her, following her. So she sneaks off into this tech noir club, and she thinks she's going to be safe in there. And she sees him pass her by, so she thinks, "Oh, hell, I lost him."
What's interesting about this scene? This reminds me of the first Highlander. The scene where he's walking by, he's got the trench coat, and she sees him following her, and he ends up going into the bar to talk to her. And they're both wearing creepy ass trench coats, and they're filming around the same time. But they're both good guys, but they think that they're bad guys at the time. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It's like a mirror image of the Highlander.
I do like that. I don't know which one came first.
A very similar time frame. I don't remember which one. If Highlander was like 85 or 82 or whatever, but.
Yeah, that first Highlander movie was fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get that on DVD, Blu-ray, or something.
Right.
Yeah, that first one is fucking great, man.
Yep. So I guess back to tech noir. I want to make a little note on that. That's like a filmmaker wink to other filmmakers because it's call it a type of filmmaking. You had your film noirs back in like the 40s, 50s, this and that. It just meant dark film. And it wasn't because it was black and white. Everything was black and white. It was dark subject matter. So it was like when everything was black and white, they were calling this a dark film. So you had your film noirs, and a lot of them had to do with murder. And it ends up, a lot of times it's detective mysteries and blah, blah, blah. But you can go back into the 50s and the whole tech noir thing. Well, that started spinning off into other kinds of genres into the future. And one of the things was a tech noir. And that was one where you would have a more futuristic setting. It's a film noir and a futuristic tech setting. And that would be called a tech noir. So I think it's funny that he puts tech noir as the bar that they first have the shootout with the Terminator in, because it's like a little wink to filmmakers, just kind of interesting little side tidbit that people might not know.
I do like that.
Tech noir is the movie you're in, and that's also the club that you're in, So
yeah, that is an interesting. I think there's a lot of purposeful naming of places and things. I think it goes back to that it has more time in the cooker, so the people writing the movies had more time to more precisely fare down on the subject material or whatever. They had more time to fare down and polish it up into a gem for it to continue to make sense, you know.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else on that or hear
that
about?
was just a little tidbit on that one. I think the next ones are when Connor and Reese get together here in a minute.
Yeah, so she gets on the phone. She's having trouble trying to get to the police, and she leaves a voicemail message on her answering machine. We see the Terminator arriving at Sarah Connor's domicile, and he beats the living fuck out of the hubby dude who wants to talk sex to people.
Yep.
And he's battered and bloody, and he pops through the door, and he shoots, what's her fucking face? I forget her name, Candy or whatever. He shoots Candy in the back several times. Huh?
That's Highlander. Yeah. My name's Candy.
Of course you are. Of course you are. I forget that guy's name.
The Kurgan, yeah.
Yeah, the Kurgan.
Yes. Anyways.
Yeah. It's better to fade out than... No. It's better to burn out.
Die out or something like that.
Yeah, it's better to burn out than fade away.
Yes.
Mom. Yeah. That's good shit. That scene where he puts together his sword, which totally doesn't make any fucking sort of structural sense whatsoever, but the assembling of the sword was such a brilliant...
it was like a montage, but...
Yeah. Yeah, but it was like... That's like sword porn for people who are really interested in blades, you know?
Right.
Yeah, that shit. It's not quite as on the same level as Commando's like gearing up scene on the beach before he storms the South American country to get Cheney back in the movie Commando.
Yeah,
but it's close. All right. Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator thinks that he's killed Sarah Connor, and thus he's going to live the rest of his days as being a drapery salesman person, or whatever. And then he hears the message, and he's like, "Oh shit! Let me listen to the message." And then he pulls the little black book out of the dresser drawer, and then finds Sarah Connor's license. Or maybe not license. Maybe it's her university ID.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So now he's got a positive idea of what she looks like, and he's got the book that gives him the information as to where her mother's cabin's at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then next, Traxler and Vukolich are getting in touch with Sarah, and Sarah's trying to explain to them that the guy's chasing her and they're going to have a unit out there to pick her up. Just sit tight. And that's when the Terminator shows up and he's about to blow her brains out. And it's really cool because he walks toward her in super slow motion and it just builds the tension for the audience. If that happened all in real time as opposed to being slow motion, I think it wouldn't have been as heavy as it was.
So here's one too, because I wasn't obviously alive. Well, I was just born when this movie came out, so I wasn't there to watch it when it first came out. Mm-hmm. What are people in the theater thinking? Like, do they know because of previews? Do they know who's a good guy, who's a bad guy?
Well,
I'm trying to think because there's that conversation about the second one. If you don't know about the second one and you just go in and watch it knowing that the first one, the Terminator, is bad,
but
you can get confused.
But at this point,
is the audience waiting to see like which one is? I mean, you've seen the Terminator kill people, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
Is John really a good guy trying to save her because she thinks that? Reese. She thinks he's a creep that's following her. Maybe is the audience thinking? Because no one knows who James Cameron is at this point. No one knows what the Terminator is at this point. So is the audience first time seeing this in a theater going, what is this? Are they thinking that there's two of these guys that are both trying to kill her? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on?
So I would love to be able to go back into a time machine and be able to watch this movie all over again. Yeah. And for the first time ever. But as we've already established, backwards time travel is not possible. we're gonna have to just try to erase our minds. Yeah. So I would say that the average person, we're talking about character development. So we see Kyle Reese hurt and in a what is it whenever there's people that's in a group that's a disparity. There's people that have a negative, have a bigger road ahead of them. You know what I mean? Like a steeper climb to get to the top.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, so he's got to struggle from the very beginning. That's a sympathetic character. You're more sympathetic to that than you are a character that has everything come easy for them.
Right. He's not indiscriminately killing people.
Yeah, he's not going around killing everybody to get his shoes.
You don't know what he's doing, though.
Yeah, we don't know much. We don't see everything. Yeah. I can assume that Kyle Reese probably took a leak between his time displacement and now, but we don't ever see him take a leak. So,
right. Yeah,
so there are things that happen that we don't get to see, and we just have to extrapolate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all in the character development. We think, normal people think, if you walk up to a stranger and kill them to death, then you're probably a bad person.
Right.
So we've seen the Terminator do that.
Multiple times. Yep.
Yeah. So it's pretty concrete that the Terminator is a bad guy. He's also hulking. He's also cold. He's not warm to anybody. He killed a clerk to get guns. He killed a punk to get clothes. He's killed innocent people just because they were named Sarah Connor. And then we have Kyle Reese, who has fought people, but only to get what he needs, seemingly to survive. Right. So I think you could probably entertain the idea that most of the audiences get it.
Yeah, I could see where he hasn't done enough for you to know that he's the good guy, but you can honestly tell he's not the bad guy.
Right.
So I guess they're asking, what's he doing there? Is there a? I don't know.
Yeah, your question is very valid, because if no one's read the synopsis and if no one's seen the movie beforehand or seen the previews, the trailers for the movie, if they come into this first time ever completely dry, at this point they may be thinking, well, Sarah's going to get killed and both of these guys may be trying to kill her.
Could be. Because she's getting creeped out by him. Like I said, that previous scene, she's just watching him in a trench coat follow her around. And here a second ago, she looks over and sees him across the bar, and he has his creepy as fuck look on his face.
Yeah, you could tell that he's been looking at her.
Yeah. So it really is like, at that point, you're like, is this guy dude? I don't know. You know?
Yeah, you're not wrong. But that's to the writer's credit. They write it in such a way so that you can maybe believe that Sarah Connor's in even more danger than you know that she really isn't, because deep down you know that Kyle Reese is there to try to help her. Mm-hmm. But it hasn't happened yet. And she can still fuck that up as a character because she thinks that Kyle Reese is the bad guy.
Yeah, she doesn't know about this other dude. Yeah, she, in that moment, thinks that Kyle Reese over there is the serial killer that's after her.
That's right.
That's what's going through her mind. She doesn't even, when this guy steps up, she's like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Why does he have a laser pointed at me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the laser, I like how they shine it right at the camera, and it makes the whole screen red.
Yeah.
When's the last time you took a laser and shot it directly into your eyeball?
I try not to do that in practice, but...
Yeah, but you've done it once or twice, right?
I don't know, maybe along the way.
Yeah, it looks almost exactly like that. It's really neat.
Mm. All the light just reflects throughout your eyeball and bounces around in there.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad that they did that. So that's really cool. So it gives you the point of view shot. Like you, the audience, are about to get shot in the face.
Right.
Which is one of the top 10 worst places to get shot, by the way.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
And then this is where Kyle Reese springs over the bar or through the bar. He pumps a shotgun and fucking blasts the shit out of the Terminator.
Yeah, after taking what feels like about 3 years to push people out of the way.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, he does. He's like, oh god, I'm trying to save the day.
There's just people running back and forth. It's like, where are all these people coming from? Like,
Yeah.
out of the way. Yeah. Pretty fucked up. The Terminator kills her because there's like 20 people in the way and he can't.
So basically, he
mowing them all down with a shotgun.
Yeah. Would it make him okay? Like none of these people matter to the future?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to create ripples in time by killing these people, but they are definitely in the way.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'd vote for that.
Yeah.
I'd sleep at night. I'd be okay. Yeah. I'm just imagining right now that old game Frogger. Like right now, he's trying to get through the people to get to Sarah Connor.
Right.
They can make a Terminator. They can make a Terminator adaptation of Frogger and him just having a shotgun trying to shoot the Terminator.
Let's do it. We can do this.
We can program it.
Yeah.
All right. So I got this still frame 57. It looks like. Are you looking at this one?
Yep.
Yeah. So Coke is it. The Terminator shoots and he misses her head just by a little bit. And that fireball from that gun is fucking gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happens here, you don't really see it. But later, the Terminator goes to his apartment that he apparently rented. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So he goes to his apartment and he opens up his arm and starts messing with the tendons, the mechanical tendons and flexors and pistons and shit. This is where his arm gets damaged.
Yep.
So Kyle Reese shoots him in the arm to push his arm away. And because the Terminator pulls the trigger, if he would have pulled the trigger just a split second earlier, Sarah Connor's head would have been a canoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would have taken it off from the bottom jaw up. But yeah, Kyle Reese shoots the Terminator in the arm, deflecting the gun just far enough to miss the shot. Because in this still frame, it feels like 10% of the entire frame is the report from the gun fireball. Yeah. So and you can clearly see that Sarah Connor's face that's a stunt person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they didn't want Sarah Connor or Linda Hamilton to be there so close to a big ass fireball.
Yeah, that really burned someone else's face.
Yeah, they're not real humans; they're stunt people.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is how Kyle Reese was able to expertly aim that shotgun in such a way that he hit the Terminator's arm, but none of the people behind him got hit by any of the shotgun spray.
Yeah, I think if we could remake this movie today and just do a shot for shot, like do it justice, I think there should be way more collateral damage.
Yes, that's what I basically said. Yeah, there should 20 people dead in there, and none of them were even being aimed at.
Yeah, it would just be people in the background just fucking bleeding out all over the place.
Oh my god, yeah.
Chunks of flesh flying off of them after every shot. Somebody make it happen. Yeah. So the Terminator chases him, and he shoots him with the Uzi 9mm, shoots at them and misses every shot. Kyle Reese unloads all 6 rounds or so approximately out of his tube magazine fed MP 133 shotgun and fucking blasts the Terminator through a pane of glass. Yep. And then this is the exact same shot that's replicated in T2.
Right. So in T2, when they replicate that, William Wisher, one of the writers, was standing outside that window in T2 when he gets shot out there. You can see him in the background when the Terminator's getting up.
One of the writers for the movie?
Yeah, William Wisher.
So he's like, I guess you wouldn't call it an Easter egg, but kind of like a cameo.
Yeah, does a cameo. So that's this exact scene in Terminator 2, when he goes to get back up, you see a guy holding a camera that's like 3 feet behind the Terminator as he's standing back up. And, like an old school, like Nikon or, whatever camera. And that's actually William Wisher.
But that guy's also just like, so the camera's just click, 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 right? Yeah. He's just taking pictures. Did you know that guy is in Terminator 1?
So where's he at in this one?
You said earlier the Terminator gets on the mic on the cop car and he says he imitates the guy's voice and says, "Yeah, pursuing suspect on 3rd and Bryant or whatever. It's that cop. So I can
see it too.
Yeah,
he does look like the same guy now that I'm thinking about it.
It is the same guy. It's the very same guy. It's also in universe the same guy. Okay, so here in just a little bit, the Terminator grabs the first cop, pushes him into his patrol car, bashes his head, and then throws him across the street. Takes his patrol car and peels out of there. That cop then retires because, dude, I got assaulted on the job. Fuck this shit. I'm just going to be an everyman on the street. Fast forward.
Photography.
It takes up photography. Fast forward about 10 years later, he's at the Galleria Mall, just hanging out or whatever, and the same fucking monstrous dude crashes through a pane of glass. And that's the reason, that's one of the reasons why the photographer in T2 has the shocked look on his face. It's not just because this is in universe. This is all for real. It's the same. That's the reason why he's so shocked, is because he recognizes Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator from the first time he got his head bashed in.
Right. That's
yeah, that's beautiful. So the Terminator gets back up, and of course the audience is kind of like, "Holy shit!" Because you don't know that he's a machine at this point,
right?
So he's been shot several times, and he got back up, just like Jason Voorhees.
Yeah.
And they run outside, and Kyle Reese shoots the gas tank of the car, blowing the car up right as the Terminator was coming at them. And then this is the scene where he runs through the fireball and jumps up on the car hood of Kyle Reese's vehicle as they're trying to make a getaway. And Arnold Schwarzenegger's got smoke and, heat coming off of him and stuff. And this is where he gets his eyebrows burnt off and his hair changes.
Yeah.
So we have a hair change here for the character. He goes from having the longer comb over sort of thing to having more of a buzz cut.
Yeah.
Which is that hairstyle, a little bit more stylized, but that hairstyle carries through to the rest of the Terminator films that Arnold Schwarzenegger stars in.
Right.
Yeah. So it's because his hair and his face got burnt in that first fireball, which I think is interesting.
Mm.
Do you think that the reason why Cameron decided to remove Schwarzenegger's eyebrows is specifically because any human that has no eyebrows looks creepy?
I mean, possibly. It was that or melt his skin off.
Right? Well,
and
they weren't going to do that till later.
Exactly. But it's kind of, maybe it's a, what is that? A foreshadowing. He goes through an explosion and something gets burnt off. The hair this time. The next time it's the skin. You know.
Yeah, maybe. But other movies do the same thing where they remove somebody's eyebrows and it makes them look creepier. I can't remember another movie right now off the top of my head. I wish I would have wrote some down.
Mm.
But there's other examples where in film they purposely remove a character's eyebrows because it makes you uneasy looking at a human like that.
Right.
Right. So by doing that, they made the Terminator even scarier for the rest of the film, and you don't necessarily know why.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Personally, I find it hard to believe that they shaved his eyebrows off. I know officially what I've read is that they really did, but to me it looks like they put silly putty over his Cro-Magnon ridge instead of shaving off his eyebrows. It looks like the skin wrinkles unnaturally right in there.
They do have bald caps for things like that. That same kind of thing, cover up people's hair.
Yeah, maybe that's what they did, and no one remembers that that's what they did. But a lot of people seem to follow through with the idea that they shaved his eyebrows off. I just find that hard to believe, but it looks good either way.
And the hard part in shooting that would mean that every single scene you shoot from then on out in the movie would have to be with no eyebrows. So, like, a lot of times when you're shooting movies, they get shot out of sequence because of when you have a location. So
Yeah.
you might shoot 5 minutes from the first part of the film, 5 minutes from the end of the movie, 5 minutes from whatever, because that's when you have the location. So if you hadn't shaved your eyebrows yet and you were shooting a scene later and then you shave them here, you would really have to shoot every single scene or reshoot later on with no eyebrows. So you can't go back and redo something from earlier in the film. But yeah, so it would make it a logistical nightmare at some point. But
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right.
their job to fix at that point. But yeah,
They also, so you said shot out of sequence because of location. There's a lot of reasons why they shoot out of sequence. Sometimes it's scheduling because of other actors have other engagements or commitments. Sometimes it's because of the equipment that they have to rent to make the movie or whatever. Sometimes it's like, whatever major equipment it is, they only want to rent it or have it.
Available for a certain period of time.
Yeah,
Every
right.
scene with that in one day from 8 different parts of the movie. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, so I find it more believable.
Shave his eyebrows for this one. Well, we need his eyebrows tomorrow morning for the next shoot.
Okay, somebody do hair plugs. Get a hair surgeon in here stat.
Right?
Yeah, put hair plugs in. And then, we got to shave them off again. That last somebody melted the cellulose.
Movie. Yeah.
All right, so Terminator punches through the windshield to try to get at Sarah Connor, and then they take a corner too sharp and roll him off, and then that's when we get to see his eyebrows gone, and I think at first glance you don't necessarily notice that there's no eyebrows there, but you definitely notice that he's creepier now. There's something wrong, and the skin wrinkles up, like I was saying earlier. The skin does not look natural.
Yeah.
And then we get the scene where he finds the cop car, bashes his head against the patrol car.
Yep, the rider. Yep.
Yep. And then he hops in and peels the fuck out after him, giving chase.
Yeah. Well, it's an old Plymouth. I think that's an old Plymouth cop car.
A good-looking cop car.
That looks like a Plymouth. I've rebuilt an engine for a car about like that.
Cool.
Been 20 years, but
hell yeah.
Late 70s, kind of a cop car. But yeah.
And then that's when Kyle Reese say, "Hey, are you hurt? Are you okay? We need to get out of here. You need to listen to me. Do exactly as I say."
So this is an interesting point right here. Especially the point where he pulls into the garage here in a second and is telling her. So in any story, there's something called exposition, right?
Yeah.
Exposition is like the past story of how you get to where you are. And one of the biggest sins to commit as a writer is to have expositional dialogue, right? So you want to, they say show, not tell.
Yes.
But you can't show everything. So you have to tell a little bit. So you have to do it creatively. But in really bad movies, this is how you know you have a bad writer. You'll have what they call expositional dialogue, something that's just verbal diarrhea that is just throwing down a backstory of all this stuff that you would never in a normal conversation need to put out there or volunteer the information. No one's asked for it. No one wants to hear it. When you have to have all that backstory come out, you have to do it creatively. If you don't do it creatively, it ends up being a bad movie, and you end up going, why the hell would they tell us that right now? This doesn't make any sense. So he works in a way here where they're being shot at and running from someone trying to kill her. And the only way she's going to trust Reese is if he gives her information and tells her what's going on. So he makes it very creatively, makes it okay for Reese to say expositional dialogue. So he's able to give us this big verbal diarrhea of backstory, and the audience is wanting to know what the hell's going on because there's questions they have, and the character needs this information because she's about to run off. She's going to bite him in the hand and run off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he has to spill his guts and give all this information. So it's a creative way. It's like, okay, if you're going to write and make all this backstory and expositional dialogue, just put yourself in a situation where it's okay to say it. And he's not just, sitting on a couch and someone walks up and starts just blah, about future war and cyborgs and blah, 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 blah. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So it really that was an interesting scene to me. It's like most movies, if you have a big just verbal diarrhea of backstory, it's a very, very bad thing. Very, done very poorly. But it's interesting how this one, not only was it okay, it was needed.
Yeah, you're right. Weird. And it felt natural.
Yeah, felt natural. This is
because,
what I need to say right now. Yeah.
Yeah, because she needed to know what's going on. We, the audience, need to know what's going on, and it's believable that he would be saying these things in that way.
Yes.
Yeah. So he, like, what does he tell her in this scene that this thing is there to kill you? It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with, and it absolutely will not stop until you are dead.
Right.
Yeah. And then she says, so you're telling me that this thing's from the future? And he says, one possible future. I mean, from your point of view, I don't understand technology. I don't exactly know what he means by that. And she says, and you're from the future too. And he says, that's right. That's when she tries to escape. She's like, this guy's fucking crazy.
Yep.
And he grabs her and says, no. And then she bites his hand, apparently pretty fucking hard because she draws blood.
There's one in the second scene. I wouldn't doubt it. In the second Terminator, the guy that licks her face at the compound or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to get out, and they're supposed to have a little fight sequence, and she runs off. When he was supposed to be fighting, something happened where he's supposed to hit her with a stick and in some sequence, and she's supposed to like fall down and hit her knees and then fall to the ground.
Yeah.
And when something was happening, he wasn't doing something believable enough. So she's having to hit her knees multiple times, over and over and over and over and over. Her knees start hurting. And I guess she's mad at him. She's telling him, like, just hit me harder, make it, so he's not hitting her harder with a stick or something. And I guess that pisses her off. So when she's in that scene where she goes to hit him in the face with that little baton thingy, she actually cracks him in the face. It was almost like, this is how you do it, and she just busts him in the face, breaks his nose. That's his blood that comes spraying out of his nose.
No way.
And it's like, she's like, this is how you do it on one take. I'm glad they got it in one take, because good Lord, how do you reset for the second take?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah,
she was pissed off because she hit her knees like 60 times, falling to the ground, and they kept having to reshoot it and reshoot it and reshoot it. So, anyways, but here she is biting his hand, and there's bringing blood. Okay, maybe that's a effect. Maybe she actually bit him hard enough. No. I could see it. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think she did that, because I think we would have heard about that. But yeah, I did hear about her smacking that mental institute guard guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did apparently kind of fuck him up a little bit. I don't know if it's everybody's belief that the guy was fucking up hard enough for it to be justified, that she had a retaliatory, whatever. Yeah. But
is it justified? Probably not. But
I think maybe
the reasoning.
I think the argument is actually it kind of was justified because he wasn't as experienced and he was causing her pain.
Mm.
But yeah. Yeah, so she bites the shit out of Kyle Reese in this moment, and he says to her, "You say the line."
Oh yeah, which was cyborgs don't feel pain. I do.
Yeah, yeah, they don't feel pain. But then, of course, we learn that they do feel pain.
Yeah.
Terminator 2. He says the data that because John Connor asked him, "Do you feel pain?" And he says the data that I receive from the injuries could be interpreted as pain.
Yeah.
So apparently they do feel pain, but it's not. I guess it doesn't hurt or whatever.
Yeah. Technically, it's just the data that we receive from the injuries to our brain that tells us that it's pain. So.
Yep. So I guess at this moment she's a little bit more defeated. Maybe she's given up, becoming more compliant. And Kyle Reese goes on to explain a little bit more as the cops patrol to see if they can find them. He explains, tries to tell her about the future war and you know what happened. Skynet rounded us up and put us in internment camps.
Mm-hmm.
And then he shows her the barcode on his forearm, which is a remnant of the Jewish markings, serial numbers that they put on some of the
Yeah, I
in
can see
prison.
that.
Yeah, in prison Jewish folks in the internment camps there back in World War II.
Yep.
Quick tidbit: Kyle Reese he trained under Polish trained some. Hold on, I had it here somewhere just a second ago. I wanted to mention it. I don't have it. I don't know where it's at. I need to find it later. But Kyle Reese, he did some training under the Polish oppression in World War II to give him the better idea. He'd studied the World War II and what the victims of that war and what that was like. So he had a little bit more of a shell-shocked, oppressed, and like a scared rat in a cage sort of.
Right. It is different because it's one thing to say you were in a war, but you can picture, and I think this is what they do wrong in most of the newer movies they do stuff like this in. You just picture someone that's a soldier that's going into a war. They're not afraid at this point. There's no preset of fear or anything like that. It's just, oh, I'm a big, strong soldier. I'm going to go and do something. That seems to be more the approach they have in a lot of newer movies. And it's like he's coming at it from a point of view of more self-defense. Like he's on the run trying to defend himself and survive, not I'm a member of a big army,
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's very well put. And then it looks like the Terminator catches up with him with his no eyebrows, and he shoots at him, and they fucking peel ass out of there. They have a little gunfight in the underground parking garage.
Oh. Sorry.
And then they get out. And there's bullet holes, shotgun bullet holes, all in the car. Kyle Reese is firing over the top of the hood. And they end up wrecking the police car out with the Terminator. And he gets his face fucking smashed into the door jamb.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Fuck that Terminator. I think she fucks the transmission up trying to stop the car at this point. I think real quickly she grabs the on the tree gear shifter, whatever you call it, and she just yanks it into park because Kyle Reese isn't driving, so to get it to stop to keep it from colliding the same way the Terminator cop car collided, she fucking yanks it into park and just completely fucks it up. And that's the reason why he can't start the car, I think, whenever they come to a stop. I don't know if that's how that works, but it's believable for the average audience.
Right.
Yeah. So the cops surround him, and Kyle Reese is going to jump out, and he's going to kill them all, I guess. And she tells him no because there's too many of them. They're going to kill you.
Yes.
And so he has to give up. The cops pick her up and are getting ready to apprehend her or whatever, and she looks over at the Terminator, and the cop car's empty. The Terminator has escaped.
Makes you wonder why he escaped.
Yeah, that's
damages. He didn't feel like he was going to be. Was that a lose the battle, win the war kind of a thing?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's definitely, I would say, one of those plot holes because that's super out of character, I think.
Yeah. Because he's blown up with one arm, and here he is in the moment trying to kill. Would it be better for him to just charge over there and try to rip her out through the door and kill her?
Right.
And get shot 30, 50, 100 times.
Right.
Yeah, go down in a blaze of glory. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely the weakest part. I think that alone is the weakest part of this whole movie. I can't think of another. I mean, maybe if we find one later, we can bring it up. But that is definitely the weakest link in this entire story.
Right.
Because I'm not buying it for a second. I don't think that Terminator would have been like, yeah, I kind of sprained my neck on that last fucking impact. I think I got, robotic fucking whiplash. I'm going to have to go sit this one out, coach.
Right.
I'm just not buying it. And he would have opened up his door, walked over to their car, and tried to kill both of them, no matter how many cops are surrounding them.
Yeah.
You
think.
Yeah, and it sucks. So Sarah Connor's now safely at the police station, and they're trying to explain to her that, hey, they're going to talk to Kyle Reese and everything's okay. And unfortunately, your roommates are dead. You'll get over it.
You'll get over it. Yeah.
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 So that's when she kind of freaks out and she's crying about her pet iguana. I don't know. Maybe she doesn't even think about her iguana ever again. I think I would like to believe that the iguana escaped and lived a happy life.
Right. I don't think the Terminator would have targeted the iguana. I don't know. But
that probably would have been out of character because it's a non-consequential being.
Yeah.
But maybe it would have been kind of cool just to see him reach up and just squash the iguana.
Crack its neck and throw it on the ground. Like, wow, what the shit? Yeah. What did the iguana do to you? Yeah.
Or maybe it like freaks out and runs across the room and the Terminator just like trains on it and just one bullet just blows it into pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we've seen other movies where they do that, where it's like a rat scurries and it just fucking targets the rat and just laser bloom,
Yeah, like Predator.
Yeah, like in the Predator. Yeah, it kills that swamp rat thing.
Nothing moved, kill it.
Yeah. So it looks like the Terminator arrives at his newly rented apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
That conversation must have been weird. He was like, yeah, I'm only going to be in town for a week or so. I want to rent this place out. Can I leave the window open so I can just come in through the fire escape? I don't know. I actually think that this apartment is owned by the guy he stole the clothes from.
Oh, you think so?
I would like to believe that that's what that is.
Because the guy he stole the clothes from was one of those dudes at the beginning, right? Yeah, those punks. Mm.
Yeah, we don't see that guy ever die.
Wallet, and he had his address or whatever on it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I would like to think that this place is the place where that guy lived, but why does that guy not come back?
Yeah, if he's dead, then he wouldn't be coming back.
If he's dead, he won't be coming back, but we don't see that guy ever die. We see him take his clothes off and throw him at the Terminator, so we got to assume that the Terminator let that guy go.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
He just didn't want blood all over the clothes.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
Do you want the guy running around telling people, hey, this guy took my clothes, this is what my clothes look like? I mean, that sounds like a loose end you'd want to tie up.
Yeah, but then the Terminator would have to be like terminating all the people at Tech Noir. He let all this. I mean, he was in there fucking firing guns everywhere, and those people were running out like.
At that point, he's got his target in front of him, right? Like he's on the scent. He's right there, right?
Yeah.
And the other one, he hasn't found her yet. He doesn't know where she's at. It's just a tactic for buying time, I guess.
Oh yeah, okay.
In front of you, and it's just go and kill her now. Well, now you're not worried about loose ends because now there's people have seen you. You've shot at people. Now it's just about finishing the action there.
Yeah, I think I actually like that.
I would have killed him. I would have taken his clothes and killed him. Yeah. I'll put it that way. I don't see any reason as a Terminator that he would say, you can live. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be out of character, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you are correct in your assessment because the Terminator 2, he lets that guy live, but he's the good guy in that movie. He's
programmed differently.
He has a different character. He's okay with killing people right up until John Connor tells him not to kill people anymore.
Why?
Yeah, why? Because it's not cool, dude. Why? Because people don't like it.
Yeah.
Why? Because my mom told me to.
Right.
Yeah, so in this movie, I would like to have seen just a really quick, like after he gets his clothes on, the guy's like, no, please, man, just let me go. And then you just hear a crunch, so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that probably would have been better.
Close that loop.
Yeah. So the Terminator shows up at the apartment, and he looks at his arm, which was damaged earlier, like we mentioned, from Kyle Reese's shotgun.
Yep.
And we get to see all these really cool mechanisms buried deep within the flesh. The biomechanical.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
nasty vein. There's like an actual like vein going across it too. I think that's the gross part. It's not just the arm opened up with metal moving back and forth. There's that vein that's like slithering through there that's just moving around. I think that adds a little bit of just you know.
Yeah. Yeah, fucking gross. And it's kind of like, I don't know how the flesh is supposed to work. You know, it's supposed to be living flesh. But then somebody complains about it stinking because it's rotting later, so I don't know exactly how alive it really is.
How long does it last?
Yeah, how long it's going to last, yeah. Oh, what's worse? What's worse than a decaying flesh zombie Terminator?
Oh, yeah.
He starts to kind of become that at the end.
Right.
Right before he gets, melted in jet fuel or whatever.
Right.
In the semi-truck explosion. Yeah, because like when he hijacks the semi-truck, his skin looks all like pale and nasty and like it's losing its life.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of people that's done zombie Terminators. I would like to get some artwork of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If this had played out for another month, what's the Terminator look like?
Right. Yeah, fucking all sorts of
shot up in him, rotted flesh everywhere, like ugh.
Yeah, maggots just like crawling all over and falling off.
Good Lord. Yeah.
A flock of crows, like hoping to get some, like just flapping around him everywhere he goes, and every time he stops, one comes down and picks him off of him.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Different movie altogether, yeah.
Yeah, that'd definitely be interesting. So then we switch back, scene switches to Kyle Reese explaining to Soberman about, the future war and where he's come from and what's going on now with the time travel.
Yep.
And Soberman's playing the stupid shithead psychologist. Well, Reese, if there is a future and you're from it, then how come the Terminator's back here? If you said, only living things can go through, well, how do you explain the Terminator?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's wrapped with human flesh.
Here's that expositional dialogue that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Let me click forward a few more pictures. I want to see which exact scene. Okay. But yeah, there's another scene up there at like 112. But what's interesting about this, you're getting into more expositional dialogue. How do you make this okay? Well, you've been arrested by the cops, and they're questioning you. Like why you're here, why you have this gun, why you're shooting at this cop car, right? So again, you have to tell the expositional dialogue. And what's funny is like they say show don't tell in a movie, in a screenplay. Well, it's simultaneously being, like parallel. You're seeing what he's talking about with this Terminator. You're seeing him do surgery, and you're seeing him take the eyeball out here in just a second. Mm-hmm. You're seeing this cyborg with the stuff on, like it's proving to you, like, okay, he's telling you the truth, but at the same time, he has to get them to know that. Mm-hmm. But what I thought was interesting, there's one scene coming up right after this where she asks if Reese is crazy, and he says, oh, he's a loon or whatever.
Yeah.
He goes on to describe it. This is the writer winking at you. He says, see this part here where it doesn't require a shred of evidence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's like the writer. It's almost like breaking the fourth wall. Breaking the fourth wall, like, so the actors are acting, and then they'll just stop and stare at the camera, basically showing you that, I'm not this character. I'm an actor, and I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Breaking the fourth wall. Well, the writer can break the fourth wall if you do it correctly. Well, that's one of their little things, how the writer breaks the fourth wall. He's telling you right there in the script that, look at all this stuff he's talking about, how it doesn't require a shred of evidence. I just say it and it's true.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's like the writer looking at you and saying, oh, here you go. I just thought that was interesting that, some good writers will work little things like that in, and, it's just a little like wink, like,
I like it.
Break the fourth wall,
Yeah, I never interpreted that as being breaking the fourth wall, but I see what you're saying. Yeah. I do enjoy that. Yeah, it's a really interesting concept. Yes, sir. And then Kyle delivers the line. Well, he says something about they had already won. Their defense grid was smashed. The war was over. but then they discovered that Skynet had sent something back in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so he said after he went through, they destroyed the time machine. So nothing else can come back. I don't get to go home. Nothing else comes through. It's just him
and me.
And me. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Makes me wonder what happens in the second one. But anyways.
Yeah.
Fourth one.
Oh, God. Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, so I don't know if at the time they made this movie they were anticipating that they were going to have to make a sequel. But of course, we can believe that there was another time machine or whatever the fuck.
Right.
And for the second one, like I said earlier, I kind of like the third movie, and I kind of think it's important. But beyond the third movie, I think all the rest of them can just burn.
Yeah,
they can probably just go.
Just stop them. Yeah,
just don't even pretend they don't exist.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we see the Terminator cutting his eyeball out, which was at the time like fantastic and like groundbreaking. Stan Winston and his animatronics helped to animate the fake Arnold Schwarzenegger head, so we could see the glowing eyeball
with no eyebrows.
With no eyebrows. Yeah. And then he puts on his gargoyle sunglasses, which I want to get a pair of those because those look pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can still buy those sunglasses right now. They're so popular because of this movie. They still make that style.
Right.
They're called gargoyles.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then he flips the mattress up and he's got some of those guns that he stole from the pawn shop clerk. And he goes out on the hunt because I guess he assumes that Sarah's going to be at the police station.
Yeah, they got arrested.
Yeah. And then, so here's the scene where we're seeing Soberman describe to the rest of the main cast that's left.
Yep.
That Kyle Reese is a lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kyle Reese delivers to the camera that's recording him. He says, "You don't understand. Who's in authority here? I need to speak to somebody else. This guy's not going to stop. He's going to reach down her throat and pull her fucking heart out."
Yep.
Allegedly, according to some of these trivias, that was his idea. That was Michael Bihn's idea. It wasn't in the script, and they kept it.
Mm.
So he just did his little freak out thing and started yelling at the camera. So right. If that is true, I wonder the actor that plays Soberman, what's his name, Earl Bowen? Bowen? Yeah. I wonder if he was shocked whenever...
he's like,
yeah, when Michael Biehn leans into his face and says, "Shut up!"
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty...
He's like, what the hell's going on? So you get a realistic reaction there. You guys sitting back like, this isn't in the script. What the fuck's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It's emotionally charged. It's so fucking powerful.
Yeah.
And then you get Traxler. He's trying to show her, hey, one of the reasons why this guy that's after you, he took so many bullets is because he was probably wearing one of these ballistic vests. Look, you can wear one of these and get shot and not even know it. And then she goes, well, what about him smashing through the windshield? And then that's when Vukolich says he was probably high on PCP, man. Smashed through the windshield, broke every bone in his hand, wouldn't feel it for hours.
Yep.
And then she's like, yeah, whatever. Vukolich is constantly getting shit on in this movie. He says he's always trying to bring up something, and Traxler, his lieutenant.
Yeah, he's like, hey, you see this scar? Like, just get out of here,
Yeah, shut up. Go get me a cup of coffee. Give me a cigarette. Yeah, so he's constantly getting shit on. And then Soberman's on his way out. Apparently he's done for the day. And he gets a beeper. He gets a page on his beeper right as the Terminator's walking in. And because he turns around to look at his beeper, he doesn't see the Terminator, even though I think maybe the cops have seen this guy. Maybe not. No, I guess they haven't seen the Terminator. He wouldn't have recognized him at this point.
Yeah.
But it is a cool little, like, one character turns his back and then us, the audience, gets to see, this movement, this guy sneak in while the foreground character is unbeknownst or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then Schwarzenegger delivers the famous line that's been repeated ad nauseum, "I'll be back."
Mm-hmm. But he looks at, what's funny is it turns into a catchphrase, but I don't think it was supposed to be a catchphrase. He's looking at the wooden frame of the window and everything around there. He's thinking, I can break through this.
Yeah.
You know, I have to wait here. He's like, no. That car will smash right through this. Okay, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Let me go get my car. You know, and then for some reason that just became the catchphrase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interestingly enough.
Yeah, it definitely became a phenomenon, a cultural phenomenon. I'll be back.
Most catchphrases, they try to write them as a catchphrase.
Yeah.
It ends up being just cheesy, and sometimes it catches, sometimes it doesn't, but it's just cheesy. Well, on that one, it was very much just, because of the way he says it with his accent and everything.
Yeah, and then how powerful the scene was that follows it, because he just starts wrecking the place.
Right.
Yeah, so that little soundbite was so easy for people to snip out way back when and share it and talk about it. It was one of the first memes, the internet cultural joke sort of meme thing. It was one of the first memes that really took off like wildfire. But yeah, he asks the cop, "Hey, where's Sarah Connor?" And the guy's like, "Hey, man, you can't come up here and see her. She's still being questioned, so fuck off. Or you can wait over there on the bench." And then to your point, brilliantly, I might add, you point out that Terminator looks at the framework and he's kind of like, "Yeah, I can just get straight through this with a car." You can see both of his eyes though through the sunglasses.
Oh, nice.
The makeup is fucked up, so you can see Arnold Schwarzenegger's natural eyeballs. Movie mistake. So then he drives through, crushes the cop to death, pops out with the AR style or AK style gun, and then a shotgun, the Spaz 12, and he proceeds to lay waste dressed up like a biker. Where did he get those clothes?
Probably killed someone on the way over.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he actually went to the same bar that Arnie went into in Terminator 2 and stole the biker's outfit there.
Right, which I don't know the name of that bar off the top of my head.
I can't remember it. I'd have to go and look it up. So he kills a fuckload of cops. We get to see some more Terminator vision. Just blasting cops left and right. And then he has the smarts to knock the lights out.
Here's an interesting, I like the realism. You see how when the cop goes to run behind the wall in that scene where it's Terminator vision in red?
Yeah.
Things they do here is he just tracks the movement and keeps shooting through the wall.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing in all movies nowadays. If you hide behind a corner, you're impervious to bullets.
Yeah.
They don't, that's anyone that's ever built a wall. I mean, it's just this thin little, 3/8, or 1/2 inch piece of plywood or of drywall on both sides, and it's just an empty, you can just put a nail through it, no problem. But, as long as you hide behind the corner, they can't shoot through it. It's so, it's so unbelievable. So it's interesting to me that the Terminator is even thinking, "Oh yeah, I can shoot through this. I'll just follow his the speed and trajectory and just keep shooting."
Just match it. Yeah.
He hide behind drywall. What the shit? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he takes care of it. Yeah.
Little details.
Yeah. Very well. Good writing. Good thought process. Illustrates us more of his skills and abilities as opposed to just being the same point, shoot, kill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so then he knocks the lights out because he knows that it's going to put all the humans at a disadvantage.
Yep.
Sarah tries to hide. Kyle Reese knocks out a cop with a tie kick to the stomach, I guess, or whatever, and steals a handcuff key and gets out. Terminator's fucking people up. Traxler gets absolutely waxed. And then Vukolich is like, "Oh, damn, man, my captain lieutenant buddy who's been harassing me and talking shit to me this whole fucking movie. He's got to avenge him." He jumps out and he's going to shoot the Terminator. And, of course, he gets killed off screen.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Reese opens up the door looking for Sarah. And they get together and hop in the first Ford Gremlin of the movie.
Which, before we get to that, what I want to mention on the iconic Terminator soundtrack, whatever, the theme song that everyone knows from Terminator.
Yeah.
when James Cameron was going over the guy that was doing the composing, he was actually doing it in his garage. So it was like he was like a keyboard in his garage doing the composing. They were watching some scenes from the film, trying to figure out what kind of sound and how the music would be, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to this scene where they were running out of the cop car, the cop station where Reese gets to her, and they're escaping. And he had said to James Cameron, he's like, I just get this feeling like, you know, da 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 da, like this, you know, triumphant thing. And James Cameron was like, absolutely not. Like that sounds like crap. Like, we're not doing that. And and then sure enough, he goes off and records some of it and does the more digital version. You know, I guess it's going to sound better there than him just making the noise with his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But he ends up eventually, you know, letting Cameron listen to his version of it that you like, kind of like the one you hear at the beginning of the movie when it's first playing and the words Terminator are rolling across. And he finally ended up agreeing to let him use that theme song and use some of that music in there. I just think that's funny that's the iconic thing. Like when people think Terminator and they have that song and Cameron was like, absolutely not.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that Cameron he had a problem with the theme song.
Well, because again, what he heard, it was just the guy making that noise with his mouth, like da 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 da.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh God, you know, like let me you know, hold back my vomit real quick, you know. Like, that's not the movie we're making here. But then when he hears the actual music that was composed, then he's like, okay, you can go ahead and use that.
Yeah, it is. The synth music, the music in this whole movie, like all of it is really, really good. And it could just be because I like the movie so much and I've heard it so much. But it genuinely just is really great 80s synth.
Yeah, made in someone's garage. It was made in the dude's garage. It wasn't some big studio production thing, you know.
Imagine how much different this movie would have been if they would have chosen to do like
Zimmer.
hair rock music. It was all like rock.
Yeah. Oh, right. Kind of like they put in the next one. There's that one song. What band was that?
Bad to the Bone. That would be.
Oh, there's that one, but there was the other one that Connor's listening to on the motorcycle. Vroom, get in there and clean your room. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like Rat or fucking Quiet Riot or some shit.
I can't remember what band that is. Yeah, but yeah, playing just music like that, you know.
Yeah, this movie would have been way different, and that's some of the things that I think about. If I was able to get like the breakdown of the audio tracks of the movie, and then just wipe out the music that plays and just replace the music, how different the movies would feel.
Oh yeah, it is like someone like Danny Elfman. Okay,
yeah,
the guy that does Beetlejuice and all the, you know, what's his face, Tim Burton movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that Tim Burton sound. That's Danny Elfman. Imagine Danny Elfman over Terminator. Like,
yeah,
you're just what is happening? Yeah, it is. It's funny how the music can just completely shift the entire, you know, aura of the movie, if you want to call it that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, John Williams is another big music producer.
Yep.
He does a lot of the Spielberg shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they hop in this, they steal this Ford Gremlin and peel ass out of there, and the Terminator just walks after him. He just follows him. They ditch the car. I'm sorry, you were about to say something?
Oh, I just kind of laugh. Like, why didn't he steal a car there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I don't know. He wasn't here to stop him at that point.
I guess he thought he was just going to follow their heat trail, I guess, from their exhaust pipe against the pavement. I'm not sure. Poor guy. But that's Sarah and Kyle ditch the car, and then they hide in a culvert underneath the street, I mean. And that's when we get some more exposition.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been shot, and she wants to doctor him up, and he's like, "Hey, I need you to med me up or whatever." And she gets frustrated and delivers the line that you mentioned earlier. You know, do I look like the mother of the future?
Yeah. Without Reese's intervention, does she ever become anyone worth raising someone to be a leader of a resistance?
So that's part
Probably
of the.
not.
Well, yeah, that's part of the paradox.
Yeah.
If it's not for him talking to her about what she needs to be thinking about and how she needs to start preparing her son for the future, would she actually be able to do that? And besides, just think about the turmoil that they're going through right now. That is shaping, like every time you've been through something tough, I think you end up being stronger from it.
Right.
And you have more experience to adequately handle yourself going forward. So because she goes through this tribulation, she's actually better prepared to deal with the next tribulation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's more of that time paradox thing. And then Kyle Reese has to deliver the message. He said, "Hey, John Connor made me memorize this message for you. Do you remember it?"
Again, it's been a few months since I actually watched it.
Yeah, so what he says is, "Thank you, Sarah, for all your courage through the dark years. He says something to the effect of, I appreciate you being there and teaching me what I needed to know. The future is not set." Or he almost says the entire line, "There is no fate but what we make for ourselves," but instead he just says there is no fate. I can't remember the rest of it, but basically the gist of it is it's her hearing her son thank her for all the hard work that she put in to make him what he is today at the time of him writing the note, and also to trust Kyle or some shit like that.
Right. Isn't that what you would say if you were a serial killer?
Yeah.
Totally trust this guy. Do whatever he says.
Yeah.
I'm your son, I swear.
I swear it. And then she asked him something to the effect of, "What was it like in your time?" or "Tell me a story about the future," or whatever. And he talks about being on patrol, and then we get the flash, his flashback, but it's somehow also our future, where he walks into the bunker and he has the dogs smell him first.
Yep.
And we'll hear a little bit more about that in a second. And you see the ruins, the absolute desolation of the living quarters of these people that are in hiding. So this kid is kind of like playing shoot 'em up or whatever, and he kind of pretends to play with the kid for a second as he's walking around with this big ass gun. And we see some poor, sick people eating slop or whatever.
Yep.
A really neat still frame of a little girl watching TV.
Which I think is interesting. Because the clip right before that, he looks over and you see the back of a television and you see light kind of flickering across their faces as if they're watching television.
Yeah.
Right? And then you click to the other side. No, this is a fireplace now.
Yeah.
We don't have any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah, there is no entertainment. Every moment is a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is your life now. And yeah, so she's sitting there watching a busted out TV that's filled full of burnable combustibles, and it's just on fire on the inside. I don't know if that's for warmth or if that's just like we like to look at fire, so.
Yeah. I'd say probably warmth. She is covered up there.
Yeah, and then we get to see some kids hunting down a rat, and then they beat the rat to death, and then they're celebrating they get to eat a rat soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how fucking down and out you got to be fucking eating some rat.
Man.
Yeah, rat burger.
Yeah.
Pretty good rat.
Yeah.
Have you ever eaten a rat?
No.
I have.
At least I hope not. I have been to Jamaica, so I couldn't tell you that for sure.
Yeah, you probably ate some iguana and some rat.
I ate a hamburger while I was there that did not have the right consistency for ground beef.
Damn.
So I don't know what it was, but I ate half of it and I stopped.
That's amazing. Me and my, I guess I would call him my crazy cousin Willie. We were down at the ranch or whatever, and he shotgunned a field rat, and we barbecued it up over the grill and ate some of it. Man, it's a lot better than you'd think.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's not like chicken, right?
No, it's better than chicken. It's like the meat that came off of this thing was more like frog legs.
Which I've never had frog legs.
Frog legs are delicious, dude. You cook them right? I mean, I know it's disgusting, but yeah. Delicious. Anyway, so they eat some rat, I guess, or they're going to, and then we see Kyle Reese unfold the old, worn, and creased photo of Sarah Connor.
With some nut stains on it.
Probably, absolutely, yeah. I was going to actually mention that earlier, but I thought it'd be uncouth. But yeah, he came through time for her, Sarah Connor. He's always loved her.
He's been staring at this one picture for the last 10 years.
Yeah, for the last 10 years. How many nuts has he busted to this photo?
That's what I'm wondering, yeah.
I think he's probably fucking burn a hole through some gloves with that photo. All right.
Oh, yeah.
And then, okay, so we get the first infiltrator Terminator. So he talked about the T600s were easy to spot. They had rubber skin, they didn't really fool us. But the new models, bad breath, sweat, human flesh, everything. Very hard to spot. That's one of these. It's a different model. It's not Arnold Schwarzenegger's Model 101. We don't know what model this is.
100 or something, who knows, yeah.
Yeah, but this guy that plays this Terminator that breaks in, because, the dogs go ape shit.
Yep.
Yeah, so he follows in some humans, and the dogs go ape shit, and they scatter, and this Terminator pulls out this big gun and just starts fucking laying waste to all the humans down there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so this is Franco Columbu. Do you know who he is?
I think you'd mentioned it, but I don't know him off the top of my head.
Yeah, he's Arnold Schwarzenegger's bodybuilding buddy from back in the 70s when Arnold was competing in the Mr. Olympia.
Right.
Franco Columbu's shorter, but him and Franco, they were very close friends, and they trained each other and competed in the bodybuilding stuff. And Franco Columbu is a world champion bodybuilder in his own right. He was also in a couple of Conan movies, or there was only two. One of the Conan movies is a stand-in, kind of like this role here.
Interesting. So the real question is, what is the connection between Skynet and the Mr. Olympia competition? Because they model all of their cyborgs in the future after Mr. Olympias of the past.
Yeah. I don't. Apparently, that was peak human physique was apparently what they thought was going to help people blend into society or blend into the. I don't know. Exactly. Super delusional.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's who that guy is, and you see him pumping out purple lasers, killing all the humans and shit.
Yep.
And then Kyle Reese tries to fight him off, but then he drops the photo, and then the photo burns up in the fire next to him. And then that's when we see Kyle waking up Sarah Connor. They slept through the night, or maybe off and on. And she's wearing his coat out, which has changed color, I guess. And they're moving out into the fog. Little bit of trivia. That fog is bug spray.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. During the filming, I forget where they were at in this location, but during the filming, there was apparently a big mosquito problem. There was a mosquito scare, malaria scare or something. So somebody had fogged the area for the mosquitoes, and they just so happened to do a pickup shot right here. Or whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that is. It's not. They didn't artificially make that smoke. Allegedly, it's all bug spray.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we get the famous scene where the janitor guy, or what do they call the supervisor of the apartment building? They call him the super, right?
Superintendent, yeah.
Yeah, superintendent. So he goes, something stinks. You got a dead cat in there? And then that's when Arnold Schwarzenegger does his thing. You want to pick it up from here and fill it in for me?
Yeah. Fuck you, asshole.
Yeah.
It was yes and no. Or what? I guess you're challenging them.
Yep.
And then go away. Please come back later. We don't need that one. Yeah. Fuck you, but fuck you, assholes, even better. He's like, for some reason, that's the one that really fits.
Yeah, that's what makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Possible response. I love how it has a multiple choice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's perfect. So the first time he hears "fuck you, asshole" is the punks at the very beginning. They say that to him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the "please come back later," is that from the cop station? The cop, before he says, "I'll be back"?
I don't know. Maybe he does. Holy shit. I have to go back and take a look.
I'm not sure. He must have heard it somewhere.
Yeah, must have heard it somewhere. We'll have to go back and take a look. But in this scene, he's sitting there flipping through that little black book of Sarah's. This is where he's reading where to go next.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He finds Mom's cabin. So, yeah, fuck you, asshole. And then, so the very next still frame I got is Mom's cabin, Big Bear. And then the phone number.
You ever tried calling that phone number?
I'll do it later. I promise.
Yeah, right.
Kyle and the Sarah arrive at the Tiki Motel, and he walks up to a German Shepherd, and the German Shepherd sniffs on him. Allegedly, that was Cameron's dog. That was James Cameron's dog.
Mm.
You know what his dog's name was?
No.
Wolfie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, apparently that's true.
Yeah.
It all comes full circle.
That's funny.
Yeah. So she takes a shower, and Kyle Reese goes out to buy pipe bomb making stuff, and then she calls Mom's cabin. And we get a long scene where you only hear her side of the conversation, and you think she's talking to her mom. And then it's revealed that the Terminator has, tortured and killed her mother, and is pretending to be her mother on the other end of the phone line to find out where she's at.
Mm-hmm.
Which is super cool. Then Kyle Reese says, hey, we're going to make some pipe bombs. Hey, you need to be really super careful with this shit because, it's plastique or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she asks him, hey, what the hell's going on with you? And he tells her, he confesses to her that John Connor gave him that photograph, and he's been looking at her. He memorized every curve, every line. I've always loved you, Sarah. I came through time for you.
Yeah.
And she reciprocates his interest, and she decides that... first she establishes that he's a virgin, which is interesting. She says, she asks him, what are women like in your time?
Strong, good fighters.
Yeah, I didn't even remember that. Yeah, strong, good fighters.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
And she was like, no, what are they like when you fuck them?
Yeah.
And then he's like, well...
Maybe a whole different direction. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, what? No, I don't know that. I've only ever known fighting and surviving.
Yeah, I think she even says, like, were there any women? He's like, no, never.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I don't believe no,
You're
never.
the only one that matters, baby. Yeah, that's
yeah. No, I'm pure. I'm totally
Yeah.
clean for you. I've got no diseases.
Yep.
Yeah. I believe that people that are in a desperate situation, dude, they're going to be trying to get some sort of break from the terror any which way they can. One of the best ways you can do it is doing some really hard fucking. People be fucking, dude.
Well, it produces endorphins in your brain. So.
Yeah, dopamine, serotonin.
Yeah. It makes the pain not hurt as bad, makes you forget about certain things that
for
are
a little while, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily buy the whole no fucking thing. I think it would have taken more time, but he would have said, I don't have time to establish a relationship with somebody. There's been nobody that I've ever loved.
Yeah,
but not
transactional, basically.
Yeah, transactional. Yeah, yeah. Because man, people like in super poor areas, people that are in impoverished or in war areas, man, they be fucking. So, yeah, I find it hard to believe that he's a virgin, but of course, the story wants us to believe that he is.
Right,
and that's fine. So they bone one out. And afterwards, that's the first time in the whole movie you see Kyle Reese smile.
Yes. Yes.
That's the one and only time that he smiles is the morning after they
And
do the
just like
dirty.
any horror movie, you have sex and then he dies, right? Like immediately after.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned horror movie because this movie is a slasher film.
yeah,
Just like
like a horror.
like Jason Voorhees or Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, the only thing that we're really missing in this story is somebody smoking weed because as soon as they smoke weed, they die.
Yep.
So the Terminator arrives at the Tiki Motel, and the German Shepherd goes ape shit and starts barking,
Mm-hmm.
which is really neat because this establishes maybe that Kyle Reese is the first one that teaches the dogs how to start barking at Terminators.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's far. That's far.
Or the for some reason dogs just go, "You're not human."
Yeah, that's probably. I don't see why they would, but yeah, that's probably exactly what it is. Terminator kicks into place, starts shooting the place up, and Kyle and Sarah hijack the dude's stepside pickup truck. Pretty nice looking Dodge, I think is what it was, or maybe it was a Chevy.
Can't see the picture of it yet, but yeah.
No, I didn't catch the emblem
on top and everything.
Yeah, I've always liked those lights on top. Kyle Reese starts lighting these pipe bombs that they made and throwing them out the window at the Terminator that's pursuing on a Kawasaki or whatever.
Yeah.
And he has her drive, so they're shooting back and forth, throwing pipe bombs, shotgun blasts. Kyle Reese ends up getting hit by one of the bullets, and he drops a pipe bomb prematurely, and it kind of fucks the truck up a little bit. And then Sarah smashes into the Terminator and knocks him off the bike, and then she subsequently loses control of the truck and flips the truck.
So, deer in the headlights here.
So everybody gets fucked up, and then the Terminator's recovering. This scene where the Terminator's kind of like on the pavement, kind of like shaking his body back into movement or whatever, and then he turns around to look at the camera, and it's just deer in headlights, and he's like, "Oh shit!" and he just fucking gets cream-oled by this this cab over engine semi truck. And it's a pretty badass little series of shots where you see him just getting tangled up and wound up underneath the chassis of this fucking thing.
Yeah.
And then Terminator gets up and walks with a limp around to the front of the cab after killing the driver that hops out in a panic. Get out is what Schwarzenegger says, or the Terminator. And tells the other guy to get the fuck out. Doesn't have to kill him, just needs him out of there. And he proceeds to run the truck over, trying to kill Sarah and Kyle, and he chases them down the street. So now the Terminator is in pursuit in a vehicle, and we got our protagonist, on foot. Kyle stumbles by the dumpster, and Sarah keeps running because I think he tells her to run. And then he prepares a pipe bomb and throws it in the back of the semi-truck. And then we get to see a really close-up shot of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator all fucked up.
Kind of a side note, what I think would be interesting is he throws the pipe bomb in the truck. This is like the way movies shouldn't end, and then the truck runs over Sarah Connor and then explodes on top of her.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to credits. And you're like, oh shit,
Oh yeah. Yeah, and T2 is a completely different film. Yeah, holy crap! That's the way it was gonna go. Yeah. Until I'm sure somebody on the set was just like, James, wouldn't it be a whole lot better if she survives?
Okay, we'll do a rewrite.
Okay, yeah. Well, I guess we'll just do it your way.
Yeah.
Rewrite. Speaking of rewrites, I wanted to mention real quick the "I'll be back." There was contention on the set. Arnold Schwarzenegger was telling James Cameron that the computer, the machine would say, "I will be back."
Oh, right.
He wouldn't use a contraction. And I don't know. I don't know the breakdown of all the different things that the Terminator said in this movie, but Arnold Schwarzenegger was adamant that the machine would say, "I will be back," and not, "I'll be back." But James Cameron said, "I don't tell you how to act, you don't tell me how to write."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, because that wouldn't have been a catchphrase. I will be back.
No.
No one would have. Yeah.
No, it doesn't have the same ring to it. It absolutely wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have carried itself into the popularity of becoming the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
So Sarah's continuing to run. The pipe bomb finally goes off and blows the fucking truck into smithereens, and she gets to witness the fleshy being hop out of the cab on fire and then finally collapse in the rubble as its flesh begins to burn away.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle Reese and Sarah unite in the smoke, and they collapse in relief. But then Kyle looks over his shoulder and realizes that the Terminator is not done yet. It's rising from the wreckage, somehow newly cleaned off of all the flesh, and is not nearly as barbecued and black as it probably should be.
Right.
Yeah, so now all shiny metal skeleton is now advancing through the fire and the rubble at them. This right here, this imagery, this metal skeleton, in the fire, in the flames, and in the wreckage, that was the whole movie. The whole movie's origin, according to James Cameron, is from that exact imagery. Yep.
He saw that in a dream or something.
Yes.
And wrote a movie to get him to that point.
Yes. Yeah, it was that was the inspiration. That was a jumping off point to create the whole Terminator movie, was that fever dream that he had. He was, at the time, it was his first directing movie. His only other one at this time. It was called Piranha 2. He was filming in Italy. And from what I understand, the movie Piranha 2 is an absolute dumpster fire of a movie.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like total dog shit. And I need to watch it just so I can put things in perspective. But imagine being the director who did Piranha 2 and then turning around and doing Terminator.
Right. So the problem with Piranha 2 was the producers, from what I understand. I remember listening to some stuff. It's been 10, 15 years, but it was the producers were making all of the decisions. And it was something in the frame where, Cameron was basically no more than like a second unit director picking up shots. Mm-hmm. It seems like they were making all these decisions, making this their movie their way, and they just had him running the camera more or less. From what I remember, and he just the whole thing just pissed him off. He didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So that led him to say, okay, what if I just write my own script and shoot my own movie? So because I guess he didn't like the idea of just getting hired to be a director for some other screenplay that you know nothing about. They just bring you on, they tell you what to do, you direct it. That's what a lot of directors do. That's their entire livelihood. They don't write a single thing. And I think if you look at every movie he ever did since then, he writes the movie, then he directs it. He doesn't like picking up someone else's work and then being told what to do.
Yeah, which is the way I'd want to do it.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. All right, and we see it dragging a leg from the semi-truck accident. We see a broken Achilles. I mean, dare I call it a tendon, but a mechanical tendon broken.
Yeah.
As it's dragging that left leg. Sarah takes charge and busts the window out so she can unlock the door to get into the facility. Do you know what the name of this facility is?
Now, I think you mentioned it. Was this Cyberdyne?
Yeah, this is Cyberdyne Robotics.
Where does it say that at? Is there like a sign background?
I don't believe it does. I don't believe we ever get to see it, but that's what this building is. I wish it would have said it in the movie.
Yeah, even if it was just like a sign in the background that you have to pause the film to see.
Yeah, because if this was any old factory, why would Cyberdyne specifically end up with the remnants of the Terminator?
Yeah, why did they get it?
Why did they get it? And also, why was it a cover-up, quote unquote? Like in T2, they talk about it being covered up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the only way that this makes sense is that they happen to I want to say that in one version of this movie, they actually were on their way here on purpose to blow it up with the pipe bombs, because in some deleted scenes, James Cameron, or some things that didn't make it into the final draft of the writing of the story, one of the plot points was going to be, Sarah says, we need to do more to try to alter the future, and we need to blow up the place that makes the Terminators.
So instead of doing that, they just made a second movie about it.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah, you get it. So they had to apparently axe that idea, probably because of time or budget or whatever.
Well, when you start writing it out too, the length, it really was, you end up running into a 3-hour movie. Yeah.
Yeah, or a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, hey,
This podcast is twice as long as the movie is right now.
Fuck yeah.
So she takes charge and she gets him in there. He's really fucked up. Kyle's real bad messed up. And the Terminator stop motion photography used to get the Terminator to look like it's animated and chasing after them, just like just straight out of a horror movie.
Yeah, and that was an actual 6'2" robot that they built that they were doing the stop action with.
Is that right?
Yeah, they built a full-size robot and did stop action with it. Now, I don't know how intricate of a robot it was. Like, was that tin or what? Who knows what kind of material they used? But yeah, they didn't. A lot of times they'll force perspective. They'll shoot a little 2-inch tall, whatever, and then blow it up to make it look like full size. But apparently, this was an actual full-size robot that they used for the whole fight sequence there at the end, doing stop action stuff.
Yeah, man, that's impressive, super impressive. I think it was actually plastic that they had used a process to impart some sort of metallic coating on, like
a chrome plating kind of thing.
Like kind of a chrome plating. I don't know exactly. Yeah. I don't want to say it's like it has to do with ions or fucking any weird shit like that, or electrolysis or whatever. I don't know how they did it, but I want to say it's mostly plastic with an aluminum coating or a chrome nickel coating.
Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently it caused a lot of problems getting that shit done too. So they used a different process for T2. T2 was a more robust and more practical setup. And we can see that it paid off too, because the robots in T2 are fucking phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then they shut the door, they lock the door. Kyle says, hey, we're going to turn on a bunch of machines to make a bunch of background noise so that the Terminator has trouble tracking their movement.
Yep.
And it says here GMF Robotics. We never hear that again, but it would have been a lot cooler if it would have said Cyberdyne Robotics right there.
Yeah.
Or if maybe in exposition earlier, he would have told her that Cyberdyne is responsible for making the first Terminator robots, but it was formerly known as GMF Robotics. So he collapses, he's exhausted. She says, get on your feet, soldier. And she tries to inspire him to, by remembering that the way he lived his entire life, he was a soldier fighting for the resistance. So she tried to inspire him like a drill sergeant would, maybe.
I guess, yeah.
Terminator crashes through the door, and this still frame 207.
I'm looking at 206 right now.
Yeah.
It's the here's Johnny moment of the horror movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That would have been funny if they would have I could probably do that later. Just get that AI robot to get Schwarzenegger's voice to say here's Johnny, and it just over Johnny.
The thing that's looking in there. Yeah. Nice. That needs to happen.
Yeah.
On the backlog somewhere.
Yeah, I'll see if I can just write down that idea and see if I can execute it. The very next scene, we see her crawling through the robot area, and she puts her hand on a controller that actuates the press. And it makes a noise, and Terminator zeroes in on it. So this is super key, because it's just for a split second, but this is where she finds out what button does what. That's how clever she is. She's panicked. She's freaking out. She's trying to get to another place. This thing's after her. She's trying to hide. she accidentally hits a button and it makes the press go off, and then she uses that information. She doesn't need reiteration. She doesn't need further training. She doesn't need nothing else. She uses this thing later specifically to crush the fuck out of the Terminator.
Right.
Yeah, which is a detail I didn't catch until this recent watch through. I was like, she smacks this button because I'm just really watching. She smacks it and the fucking press comes on. I'm like, how did I never notice this before?
Yeah, and that's like I said, that's what gets him after her. But that's how she knows how to kill him when he's chasing her.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. So then they get to the catwalk staircase or whatever, and Kyle Reese says, hey, this is my final stand. You need to get the hell out of here. Run. And he picks up a pole and starts whacking the Terminator. Beats it over the head a few times. And then the Terminator just absolutely bitch slaps Kyle across the catwalk. And then he lights his final pipe bomb, or what we can assume to be the last one that he's got. He may have had more, but this one is the one that does the job. Lights a pipe bomb and shoves it up in the abdomen area of the Terminator.
Yep.
And then it explodes, shooting bits and pieces of the Terminator all over the place. And also the concussive blast kind of messes Kyle up quite a bit.
Which makes me wonder why we don't have the Terminator leg.
Yeah.
Cyberdyne later, because that wasn't crushed.
Super big plot hole. That's one thing that no one talks about. I have never heard anybody ever mention this leg, and the camera fucking stops on it for a second.
Yeah, here it is. It gets left behind,
Yeah, it gets left behind. There should have totally been a Terminator leg in T2.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were thinking. Yeah. But then again, you can make the argument that every bit of the Terminator should have been preserved, because if it was a big cover-up, they should have even had the crushed remains chilling.
Yeah.
Someplace in a box.
Well, I mean, the chip they pulled out of its head.
Yeah, they kept the chip, but they didn't keep the skull and the torso?
Yeah, they were all smashed up.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Maybe it's somewhere else. Here, that's what's interesting.
Ooh.
That's the stuff they gave to the people to do research on. You got an arm that's in good condition. You have part of a chip. Run with this. Okay, where is the rest of that stuff? Who has that in a lab somewhere or in a box somewhere?
Yeah, I guess.
And then you wonder why maybe Terminator 3 happens later.
Yeah, maybe that's exactly the justification for Terminator 3, and that's a question that none of our Terminator 2 cast asks, or characters. They don't ask, well, what about the rest of the Terminator? How come we're only looking at the arm and the chip?
Yeah.
Yeah, no one asked that in that movie, and we, the audience, never ask either.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it was me, if I was in Cyberdyne, GMF Robotics, and I show up to work the next day, and I'm like, dude, look at this shit. That's fucking crazy. Let's just throw all of it away except for one arm and one chip.
Yeah. So we're going to study that intently.
Yeah. We're going to change the world with these things, but, both the legs, the other arm, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for pointing that out. Super brilliant. So Sarah's now got a hurt leg, and Kyle Reese dies. He's dead, right? So her hurt leg and upper thigh on the left, you can see her pull a chunk of stuff out. Is that some shrapnel from the pipe bomb?
Or shrapnel from the Terminator. Yeah.
Okay, shrapnel from the Terminator. This is super important. I am the first person to ever say this out loud. I believe it.
All right.
John Connor, Kyle Reese, and the Terminator have all three been inside Sarah Connor.
They're Eskimo brothers.
Brothers.
If you know that quote from a show. Anyways.
No, I've missed it.
It was a show called The League, about a fantasy football team league or whatever. But yeah, they had this going joke about Eskimo brothers. I'm pretty sure you can guess what that's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, I was watching this the other day and I was like, fuck, man, where did that shrapnel from her leg come from? Is that a piece of the Terminator? How crazy. to think, because I've never heard anybody mention that. And then the thought occurred, all three of these characters have now been inside Sarah Connor.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And the 1000.
Oh yeah. At one point he does stab her, huh?
Yeah, he stabs her at the end of the movie with his finger. He says, "Call to John."
Damn.
Shoulder. Yeah, so, yeah, she's getting around.
Yeah, oh, fuck. Oh, that's hilarious. You heard it here first, folks. Yeah, and then we see the still frame where she confirms that Kyle Reese has passed away. And it's brutal, man. His eyes are open and unmoving. Yeah, super sick. And then she gets surprised with the Terminator has come back again, like all, slashers. They're never dead. They always come back. So the Terminator's chasing her again, and he crawls over Kyle Reese's dead body, and the Terminator's wires and shit are like mechanical guts hanging out.
Yep.
Which is really neat, visceral imagery.
Yeah. So
he continues to pursue her crawling, and she crawls through the press, and as soon as she gets to the press, she's reaching over because she knows what she's doing. The Terminator's trying to get to her. He's kind of stuck. And she reaches up and she knows which button to smack without even looking at it because she hit it earlier. And she didn't need further training. And she smacks that button and crushes the Terminator.
You're terminated, fucker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she delivers the final quip. I don't know what they call those, but the last little... The thing the good guy says. I think they even still do that in movies today, don't they?
Possibly. I
don't think it's nearly as popular as it once was. There always had to be some clever little line that the good guy said before he killed the bad guy.
Speaking of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the movie Total Recall.
Yeah.
Sharon Stone's character, his fake wife that's like trying to keep him under control or whatever.
Yeah.
He ends up shooting her in the head half to 2/3 of the way through the movie, whatever it is. And then afterwards he says, consider that a divorce.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Similar to that. Well, apparently in the script, originally he was supposed to say, consider this a divorce, and then shoot her in the head.
Oh.
And I guess they were going through it and they thought it was just a little bit too brutal, a little bit too cold-hearted, where you end up looking at the hero, instead of him making a timely joke after something had happened, he just sounded more cold-blooded. He looks like this cold-blooded murderer,
I think I would have liked it the other way around.
Consider this a divorce.
Boom!
Right in the face. Yeah, so a little interesting thing for that.
I love it. We should do Total Recall next, because that movie's so good.
Yeah, Philip K. Dick wrote the original story material for that. He's got a lot of interesting material he wrote way back in the day. He was like a science fiction whatever author. And what was it called? Do Machines Dream of Electric Sheep?
Oh,
I
yeah.
Is the name of the short story he wrote.
I need to read that.
There's a lot of movies. You ever seen what's that movie with Tom Cruise?
Minority Report?
Yes, Minority Report, I think maybe that was the one that was called, I don't remember. He had some weird names to him, but there was Minority Report was based off of his work. There's another one with Nicolas Cage. I think it was called Next. Where a guy could see every possible future as he was happening. That was based off Philip K. Dick's work. Like, he had a lot of interesting screenplays that turned into, or not screenplays, but short stories that turned into screenplays in Hollywood later. Yeah, so side note.
Nice. Hell yeah. So I also want to say real quick before I forget, the robots, do they dream of electrical sheep, is also mentioned or referenced a lot for Blade Runner.
Oh, really? Okay.
I believe so. I could be remembering that wrong. But that original movie Blade Runner is so damn good.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen that one.
Yep.
I've seen bits and pieces of it here and there, but I haven't watched the whole thing through in like 20 years.
Yeah, you need to. Edward James Olmos is in that movie.
Is he going to teach me calculus when he's done?
Maybe. I don't get the reference.
He was in a movie where he was a calculus teacher.
Oh, okay.
In some suburban whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. According to IMDb, Edward James Olmos was considered for the role of Lieutenant Traxler, which is the reason why I got him in mind. Yeah, he was. That's going to be. I only know of Edward James Olmos from the show Battlestar Galactica, the remake that came out, I think, in the early 2000s.
Oh, wow. I don't think I ever watched that one.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, he was also in Blade Runner. He played one of the detective guys.
Yeah.
Too bad she won't live. But then again, who does? So yeah, the Terminator gets crushed, and the light fades out of the eye, signifying to us, the audience, that the terror is truly over, because the light's out, so the computer must be dead, so the robot must be dead. And then she's loaded up in an ambulance. I'm sorry, what were we going to say?
For now, yeah.
Yeah, for now, until the second one. Kyle Reese is zipped up in a body bag. Pretty fucking brutal. The body bag is actually just a coat storage bag. Yeah. Because they couldn't actually pay for a body bag, I guess. God. Got to do what you got to do when you're making a movie. And then the next scene is... I mentioned the Ford Gremlin earlier. I want to, real quick, when the Terminator was in the last semi-truck that gets blown up with a pipe bomb, it crashes into a Gremlin, like right before it blows up. Mm-hmm. And also there's a Ford Gremlin, or whatever it is. Maybe it's not Ford, but there's a Gremlin here broke down at the gas station. So there's like 3 Gremlins in this movie.
Probably the cheapest car they can get a hold of that they could actually wreck whenever they wanted to. Yeah,
that's probably exactly right. You're probably exactly right.
And especially as a car guy, you get sad seeing car movies where they're smashing up stuff that maybe was a little more common back then, but now you're like, oh,
yeah,
why?
Yeah,
like every time they do a Dukes of Hazzard movie, they destroy 30 different Dodge Chargers.
Yeah,
like stop it, make the madness stop.
Yeah. This is the time to use CGI, folks.
Yes.
Yeah. Save the Chevy Novas. Or the 442s.
Yep.
Or the Rambler Scramblers. Or the... Yeah. So she's getting some gas. She's doing a little bit of recording for John. Notice that she's got a German Shepherd dog with her. Mm-hmm. So she's the first human to start using the German Shepherd dogs as Terminator detectors. Mm-hmm. And she passes that knowledge on to John Connor. And so this is significant and super important. Okay. Way back when Kyle Reese was talking to Sarah right before they boned, and he said, I memorized every curve, every line. I came through time for you, Sarah. I've always loved you. And in that moment, when I'm looking at that picture, at that very moment that picture was taken, I always wondered what it was that you were thinking at that time, because the look on your face was sort of sad.
Oh, right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's sitting here talking to a recorder for John Connor, and she's talking about Kyle Reese at this very moment. She says, even though we were only together a brief time, we loved a lifetime's worth. And then, boom, the kid snaps the picture.
Okay.
Let that sink in.
Right.
He had this same picture. This is the picture that John Connor gives Kyle Reese.
Yep.
On purpose, because Kyle Reese will be the guy to go back in time to impregnate his mom with John Connor. Kyle Reese holds this photo and looks at this photo in the future and often wonders, what was she thinking at the time this photo was taken?
Yep.
And then we get to find out that she was thinking of Kyle Reese at the time.
Yep.
It's so powerful, man.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things that it took me 30 years to
there's like a not like a wormhole, but there's some kind of like so he's looking at the picture thinking of her, and in the picture she's thinking of him.
Yes, and neither one of them know. Because even in that moment, she doesn't remember. She goes, "Oh, Kyle, talk to me about this. How wonderful and neat, huh, audience?" She didn't do that. She doesn't remember. It's taken me 30 years of watching this movie to make that connection, and it slapped me in the face the other day when I did, and I was like, "Holy fuck, dude, that's so heavy, man."
Yeah. Funny.
Yeah, it's great. So there's the photo, and then she rides off into the storm. Figuratively, metaphorically, and actually, the storm.
Yep.
Yep. So that's the conclusion of the movie.
All right. Interesting. Anything on here that jumped out?
Any further? Anything else? Did we get it all?
I mean, we're at what do you say, about 3.5 hours or something?
Yeah, we're pretty damn deep. There's more to talk about, but I don't know if we can really even justify getting to it.
Right. Yeah. To start another point would drag us out to 4+.
Yeah. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think this has been pretty thorough. I really enjoy this. This has been a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah. you don't have any last tidbits before we close out?
Well, I don't know. I mean, as far as if we have to do another one of these for the second one or something else, another movie.
Probably going to have to.
That's where you get into the is there fate?
Right. So
that whole thing that carries through.
Yeah, there is no fate but what we make for ourselves. Personally, I think that's bullshit. I think the second movie really fucked it up by trying to convince us that they could change the future. But hell, I mean, it's James Cameron's movies. He can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Right. Well, even in the first one, he says one possible future.
He does say that, but what the fuck does Kyle know? He's just one human.
Right.
Yeah, he's not omnipotent. You know.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely more to talk about. Well, cool, Redline. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. I'm sorry it ran so long, but
Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
Behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, we can maybe in the future sometime. We can do Terminator 2. Definitely can't do it in the past.
Yeah, that we know of.
No, not yet. Anyway,
there's a machine running somewhere right now that we can go and step into, and
yeah. Okay, cool, man. I thank you again. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your intelligent commentary and walking through this entire movie with me. Appreciate any of the audience that has maybe listened to this in part or in whole. And if you've made it this far, then make sure you drop a like on it if you liked it, a dislike if you disliked it. Give me some feedback and a comment down below. I'll answer any questions. Prove me wrong, fill me in, anything that we missed. What's your favorite part about the movie? What are your theories? Subscribe for future content. Share this video with a buddy. Helps me out a whole lot. I'm Protodead. And until the next time, I'm going to catch you on the flip-flop.
All right.
That's it.